America with our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
We're definitely in a little bit of a new format here this morning. Your commission chairman, Mr. Tom Hugoton, had a test done last week and came back Saturday that he does have the coronavirus. And so our chairman will not be available for in the courthouse here until after the 10th of this month, but he's on star leave. So he will be here and participate at whenever the appropriate time is. So on behalf of the commission, Tom, we want to wish you a quick recovery and hopefully that your symptoms will stay mild and moderate. So it's great to have you on board, Tom.
Thank you. I feel pretty good today.
As you can tell from the agenda, we've got a full day taking place over and above our normal activities. We've got a couple of interviews this afternoon for our emergency director. So we'll try to say as much as we possibly can on the prepared schedule. And hopefully we'll get everything accomplished on a very timely manner. At this time, I've entertained a motion to approve I'll start with the first one first, November 30th minutes. I think everybody's had an opportunity to read them.
I'll make that motion.
Tim has moved to approve the minutes November 30th. Entertain a second. I'll second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Entertain a motion to entertain our minutes on December the 2nd.
I'll move.
Bob is so moved. Entertain a second.
I'll second.
Tim is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Consent agenda, we don't have any topics under that. We do have 3 motions, miscellaneous motions. Upon the recommendation of the Coffee County Clerk, move to authorize and direct the Vice Chairman to sign the notice to Key West Township Board for a 2021 cereal malt beverage license for Conoco Travel Center, Cedar Valley Investments, DBA Fuel Espresso 11, located at 2754 US Highway 75 Northwest. Lebo, Kansas 66856.
I'll move.
Fred is so moved. Entertain a second.
I'll second.
Tim is second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Upon the recommendation of the Coffee County Clerk, move to authorize and direct the Vice Chairman to sign the notice to Key West Township Board for a 2021 cereal malt beverage license for Travel Centers of America located at 2775 US Highway 75, Lebo, Kansas 66856.
I'll make that motion.
Tim has moved.
I'll second.
Fred is second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Third one, move to approve the letters of appreciation to the Board and Chamber of Commerce gift certificates in the amount of $20 each as a Christmas gift for county employees, appointed boards, district court, and extension employees.
Question, will this also include the board that, I'm trying to think of the name of the title of it, that we had the merchants and people applied to for the CARES Act? Yeah.
Oh, Karen, those 14 or 15, I can't answer that.
No, I didn't include them.
I was wondering if we should.
You know, I don't know how many times they met, but they met on behalf of the county commission and our county citizens for several times, made some very, very important decisions. I have no problem at all of adding that group of people on that.
Do you feel like that needs a motion or just be included?
I think we could just change that motion to include those representatives of the CARE Act. Any other discussion on that? You want to move to approve that with that correction, Fred?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Entertain a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Fred has moved, Tim is second. To approve the letters of appreciation to our county employees, appointed boards, district board, extension employees, and the CARA Act Committee. I'm not sure how that needs to be written, Angie.
I'll get all the names from Amber.
Any discussion, any additional discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0. First on our agenda this morning is.
There's one more motion, Don.
Oh, there is? Sorry about that, it kind of hid our fourth one. Move to authorize and direct the vice chairman to sign a memorandum to department heads regarding the budget year-end transfer.
Is that date gonna work for you, Angie? It's December 18th.
Look at the calendar real quick.
That'd be a week from this Friday, or 2 weeks from this Friday. Or a week from this Friday, I guess. I'll just read that. Please have all your budget year-end numbers to Administrative Assistant Donna Berlin and County Clerk Angie Kirsch no later than 5 p.m. on Friday, December 18, 2020. This information is needed in order to prepare the year-end resolutions that will transfer funds from each of the departments to replenish the reserve funds for proposed 2021 projects. Please present them on paper. Your assistance in this matter would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. With that date,
That date is gonna work, yes. Yeah.
We'll work that. Need to have somebody move to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
Tim has moved. Entertain a second.
I'll second.
Fred is second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Okay. Our lobbyist that represents Coffee County as well as probably some other counties, Mr. Whitney Dameron. Whitney, would you please come forward? I think all of us know Mr. Dameron. I know you just met our new commission, Tim, and to our citizens of Coffee County, lobbyist Whitney Dameron represents the county and legislature, and it's great to have you on board to give us an update.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Commissioners. To your health, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see Angie and Donna again. In spite of COVID, we do have another legislative session. Do I need to turn this on?
Yes, please.
We do have a legislative session coming up. You may recall earlier this year, the legislature quit 2.5 weeks early and left quite a bit of unfinished business in March. They came back for a one-day veto session. Those typically last at least 3, 4, 5 days, sometimes 2 or 3 weeks or longer. So they came back for a 24-hour marathon period, and then The governor did not like the work product very well, so she vetoed about 2/3 of it, including changes to her emergency powers and some tax bills and the like. Called the legislature back for what turned out to be a one-day special session where they tried to reach a compromise agreement on the emergency powers. I think today she's not happy with them. Certainly members of the legislature are not. They continue to look at emergency powers, and I think that will be something that the legislature wants to review in 2021, not just focused on COVID, but on the whole spectrum of what the governor's emergency powers should be in cases of natural emergency or something even like COVID or some continuing challenges we have there. To lay a little bit of a context for what we're going to get into in the next legislative session, obviously we've gone through an election at the national level, here at the state level. We had some highly contested races and a lot of money poured into the state, as you all know if you watch television or listen to the radio. We had a U.S. Senate seat that was nationalized and saw some $27 million in direct money come into State Senator Barbara Bollier's race. She outraised Roger Marshall, congressman from the 1st District, 4-1, plus all kinds of national money that came in on top of that from various groups. So you also had an incumbent Democrat in the 3rd Congressional District up in Johnson County, Wyandotte County. And because of those two races, Barbara Bollier being out of Johnson County as well, Democrats were hopeful that they were going to win those races, obviously, but also that they were going to elevate some other races in Johnson County and be able to at least increase their numbers in the House and the Senate by an incremental amount to keep the governor somewhat protected by reducing the Republicans' numbers below a 2/3 majority, which is required to override vetoes and adopt constitutional amendments. That didn't happen. Republicans maintained a 29-11 majority in the Senate. They also increased the numbers by 2 in the House and are now sitting at 86 Republicans, 39 Democrats. So Republicans do have a 2/3 majority in both chambers, but more important, you go back to the August primary and 6 Republican moderate senators lost their re-elections and 4 Republican moderates in the House lost their re-elections. And so both House and Senate have moved considerably to the right, which puts them pretty squarely at odds with the administration and the governor. So I don't think you're going to see really much of an opportunity for some of the programs that the governor would like to see passed, including, for example, expansion of Medicaid. I think that is almost off the table. Certainly anything that sounds like some kind of an expansion of Medicaid with the way the legislature is. I think you're also going to see House and the Senate get pretty proactive on emergency powers, for example, tax policy. We saw a bill this last session called the Taxpayer Transparency Act, which passed by very strong margins, House and Senate, requires a public hearing at the city or county level if you spend more money next year than you did this year. It's kind of, at least in a nutshell, what that kind of legislation looks like. And so you don't get credit or cover, at least as the proponents would say, from increase in valuation. So just because you don't change the mill levy, but you can spend more money, you have to have that kind of hearing. That passed, quite frankly, with bipartisan support last session. The governor did veto it. There was not an opportunity to override due to the ending of the session. I think you're going to see legislation like that come back. Part of that, it did repeal the local property tax lid, so there was some at least benefit to local units that came out of that legislation. In meetings that I've had recently with the League of Kansas Municipalities, Kansas Association of Counties, and other municipal lobbyists, they're looking at some language to try to come to some kind of a compromise on that with the proponents, and they've not shared it publicly yet with the other the proponents of that legislation, but I think that'll happen in probably the next couple of weeks when we get to the legislative session. It remains to be seen if they can come to some kind of an agreement on that or not. Today in Topeka, Republicans and Democrats, House and Senate are gathering to elect leaders for the next term of the legislature. It'd be 2 years in the House, 4 years in the Senate. We're going to see a little change in the House. All 4 top leaders have announced they're running for re-election, and I think are unchallenged, from the Speaker on the Republican side, the Speaker, the Majority Leader, and Speaker Pro Tem, and then the Minority Leader as well. One interesting note about Speaker of the House, Ron Reichling from Olathe, is he is seeking and will likely be elected to a 3rd term as a Speaker. That's never happened in the history of the state of Kansas. It's usually, the tradition has been no more than 2 terms and then you kind of go home. So breaking the mold there a little bit. In the Senate, there will be change because the 2 top people have left. Senate President and the Majority Leader chose not to run for re-election. The only announced candidate for Senate President is Ty Masterson from Andover, very likely to be elected. There are contested races for the next couple of leadership spots on the Republican side, the Vice President, and Majority Leader. And then the Senate Minority Leader will change too, because Anthony Hensley, who is the longest serving member of the Kansas legislature, he's been in some 44 years, lost his re-election up in the Topeka area. The majorities the Republicans have probably lead to a handful of issues that they've kind of been stymied on the last few years, including constitutional amendment on abortion that fell a few votes short in the House last year, appellate selection. We saw recently where the governor elevated a member of the Court of Appeals to the Supreme Court. That does not require any kind of a Senate confirmation. That person in particular received some attention almost immediately from opponents to her, and I think that's probably going to help you generate some of the discussion on bringing in some kind of an appellate selection process for the Supreme Court. That would require a constitutional amendment, though. Again, probably no expansion of Medicaid, review of the governor's emergency powers, tax policy. Kansas Chamber has a number of bills related to tort reform that they're interested in. And then redistricting in 2022, we're going to redraw the maps. That's been a pretty contentious issue in Kansas the last couple of times. We've done that with the federal courts, as we called a decade ago, and probably don't get into that till 2022. But again, with the majorities and the way the legislature's set up now, they'll probably be pretty cohesive on trying to redraw districts, which we only have one member of the congressional delegation who's a Democrat, but that could be a challenge for Sharice Davids, given the way they draw the maps. Probably the only real bright news, I guess, going into the legislative session has been the budget. There's a group called the Consensus Revenue Estimating Group, and they get together twice a year. It's composed of legislative staff who work with the budgets, the state budget director, and certain members of academia who are economists and the like, and they attempt to project what state revenues are going forward. They do that in April, of which the legislature and the governor uses those numbers to put together the final budget, which under a constitution has to be a balanced budget. In November, they meet again, and those numbers are used to prepare a budget for consideration for the next legislative session. So in April, when the credit group met, the pandemic was just exploding, and they came out and predicted that the current fiscal year we're in would see a revenue shortfall of $750 million. And the next fiscal year, which would start July 1 of 2021, would be underwater by $1.2 billion. And that was really setting up the legislature and the governor to have to make some substantial adjustments to the budget. The revenue estimating group met again in November. Things have really begun to come back both nationally and at the state level. They readjusted those numbers. It's hard to believe that they were that different. But they readjusted us to predict that the current fiscal year would be positive by $350-some million. And the next fiscal year, rather than being underwater by 1.2 billion, would be underwater by about 150 million. And in the legislative process, with the state budget, that's a manageable number. 1.2 billion would be difficult without doing some serious damage to transportation, K-12 education, social services and the like. So the governor has not been forced to make across the board cuts or things like that. And I think you'll see those issues addressed in the legislative process and not through some kind of a governor's edict, like doing across the board cut. Coming down to kind of what this means for Coffee County, the budget being stable will be helpful to hopefully continue the transportation program that was passed earlier this year. That was, quite frankly, probably the most significant piece of legislation that passed. Another 10-year transportation program. It passed on essentially the last day of the regular session, March 19th. And probably had they not gotten that bill done before they reached first adjournment, we wouldn't have a transportation program that would have been kicked down the road, and who knows what would have happened to it. And then, but transportation funding, a component in the tax bill that has been talked about for a number of years, sales tax on internet transactions. So due to the Supreme Court decision, states now have the ability to impose the sales tax on internet transactions for both state and local sales tax initiatives. The legislature has looked at that issue. They had a proposal this year that would have at least had like a safe harbor provision. So if you did less than a certain amount of sales in Kansas, you wouldn't have to collect and remit sales tax. So that was designed to help small business and who may not be sophisticated enough to put together the kind of software to do those kind of sales throughout Kansas with the various tax jurisdictions. That didn't pass. The governor took the position, sales tax, there's no exemptions for people whether they're in Kansas or not in Kansas. She ordered the Department of Revenue to begin collecting sales tax and at least attempt to. That effort has actually proved to be quite successful. The state's raised about $75 million since the Department of Revenue went down that path. We may see that revisited and see some kind of an exemption for small business if they put that into a tax package. But now that the state's getting that money, they'll be hard pressed to give it back up, or at least most of it anyway. Some things that the Kansas Association of Counties sees that their priorities include constitutional home rule. They've had that around for a few years. It's a difficult issue to pass, a difficult issue to get 2/3 majority. Quite frankly, some of the legislature take away municipal city home rule if they could. So you cite that as an example of why they don't want to go down the path of county home rule. Some discussion of the property tax lid, tax valuation, the appeals process. A lot of that's driven out of Johnson County. They've had some challenges with how the local appraiser has appraised big box retailers that are in business versus those that are closed. It's an appraisal process, or the label has been given to it as dark store theory. So should a store that is vacant be taxed differently than a store that's an ongoing operation? Again, right now it seems to be a Johnson County issue, but it could evolve to hit other counties depending upon how the appraisal process works. Medicaid expansion has been a priority of the counties. Mental health and jails, increased funding. Capers, preserve funding. Most people aren't too excited about re-amortizing the Capers debt. That's something the governor's wanted to do to free up some money. I don't know that the budget is in such a situation that they feel they have to do that. And then the governor and the legislature have spent considerable time on expansion of broadband. The governor has dedicated some additional funds to that. There was some CARES Act money that came down that they put into that. So hopefully we can see some improvement on broadband in the rural parts of the state going forward in the next couple of years. And that's kind of the priorities of what we're seeing, and I'd be happy to stand for questions. I think legislative leadership doesn't know what the session looks like yet. We do know it starts January 11th. Very likely to be mask requirements. You're not supposed to be in the Capitol unless you have business, so the tours are going to continue to be prohibited from coming in, and visitors and the like. I think most people that have proactive legislation are of the opinion you better get in and get it done quickly, because we could end the session like we did this last year, where they just pull the plug and say, we're out of here in the next matter of days. But the one improvement that we've seen in that is the state has put some money into technology, and so like having people on the screen, Zoom, and those kinds of things. That we've had Zoom hearings and people testifying remotely, and we'll get through it and see the other side. But hopefully, 2021 sees improvement and somewhat back to normal by the 2022 session.
Anybody have any specific questions they'd like to ask? It is good news that the state won't be a shortfall on funds, is what you just said. Plus $350 million for this current year. And it would surprise me with that much of a change for the current year. Next year, chances are it won't be as low as a minus 150, but those are unknowns. And
predicting state revenues is I call it this side of reading chicken actual something or something like that. Sometimes you might remember back not too many years ago when they had, they were missing monthly, not even annual, monthly projections by hundreds of millions of dollars. And we've tried to refine that process so that we have something a little better to work with, and it's still an estimate.
Yep. So we appreciate you coming forward at this time. My glasses are having trouble fogging up, but upon the approval of the county attorney, S24 moved to approve the 2021 memorandum agreement with Whitney Dameron for lobbyist services and to authorize and direct the vice chairman to sign the same. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Brett has moved. Entertain a second.
I'll second.
Tim is second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. We appreciate what you and your lobbyists do. I know when I was at the co-op, we worked with 3 or 4 different lobbyists all the time on fertilizer, grain feed. We know, sometimes there's a question how important they are, but we also know the numbers count when you're in the lobbying business. So we do appreciate you doing what you do for Coffee County.
I appreciate the opportunity. It was good to get back to the hometown.
Okay. All right. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You want to hang on, we'll get you.
Okay. One thing that wasn't in here, the dollar amount is still the same as what it has been, correct?
Yes, sir.
$1,250 a month?
Yes, sir.
Tara, are you sat behind the post? I apologize you came in. Next on our agenda is the Coffee County Transportation. Tara Reynolds, we'll be talking about fare boxes, and she was in here, visited with us here 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. And give us an update. She's gonna bring back to your proposals.
Good morning. First of all, if I can, just thank Angie real quick, because she did help me get tax exempt form for our building, which you guys know, having fun. And so, that we can continue to proceed forward on our building, so that, I do appreciate Angie's help with that. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys. Okay, I was in here a few weeks ago and had asked for, funding to get fare boxes for our buses. And at the time, I appreciated the request, to try to find some more bids for them. It appears that Diamond is the only company left that does a simple fare box. So I decided to bring it in this morning so you guys could see. This is just a sample that they had sent me. But this is what they'll look like. All the other companies that I contacted have these very expensive, around $1,500 a piece, that are like an electronic box, and we don't want that. We just want a simple box that they can drop their money in as they board the bus. We don't want something that's gonna count the money that comes in. We'll do it at the end of the day when it comes off. So those boxes, to get enough for all 9 of our buses, is $3,830, which is about the price of 2 of the other fare boxes. So, every company that I contacted about getting just a simple box like that, referred me back to Diamond, every company. So I feel pretty comfortable with that. They are the only company that still makes the simple. That's actually called a donation box for agencies that still take just donations. We do fares, but we have had no trouble since the beginning of COVID. We've just been using like a cardboard box, and we haven't had any trouble with anybody shorting us money or anything like that. So I feel comfortable with just sticking with a donation box and not needing to go with the electronic boxes.
Anybody have any questions or comments? I forget the dollar amount we were talking about before, but it must have been considered.
It was this $3,830
Okay,
was the original bid, and then Bob had asked if I could see if there was any other companies that would have them cheaper. And so I tried, and
Yeah.
it appears that nobody else makes just a simple box like that.
Yeah. But we know how important our Coffee County Transportation Department is to our citizens of Coffee County. Totally unreal service that it provides. And I think we probably all agree we need to make this, under the virus pandemic we're under, we need to make this as safe as we possibly can. And of course, do it at a reasonable cost.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. And that was the whole, we never even had considered donation boxes or fare boxes before, but with the virus and it's just been handling the money constantly all day long for the drivers. And I just, if they're gonna have to handle the money, there's really no point in having the barriers that we just spent the money on to get into the buses. So I feel like it's I really do feel like it's a good, just another improvement, another step to try to keep the virus away from my staff, which so far, knock on wood, nobody has gotten it from the office. I have had one staff member that has had the virus, but it was not from the office that they got it. So.
Have you requested from the CARES Act for this money to buy these?
So our CARES Act funding comes through KDOT, and so it would, I can request this from KDOT, but it would come out of my budget, which would then run me towards the end of the year. It doesn't, they don't increase our budget for that.
But I'm guessing this wouldn't be eligible through the county's CARES Act money?
You have to ask that committee, I mean, it seems.
I'm looking for.
Like Amber,
Well, like Amber would probably have the answer.
Isn't all that money already allotted for?
Well, I don't know, but that's what I'm trying to find
Yeah,
out.
I think it is.
I believe it is.
I think those funds are all exhausted, aren't they?
But those funds are all
Yeah,
exhausted.
I think those funds are all
Okay.
gone.
That was my impression as well,
My-
because
okay.
this was my
My
original request to her, and she said when her funds were all expended.
You already sent it to her then? Okay, that's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, takes care of that.
Yeah.
Well, since I had asked Kara to request, see if she could find something different, and she, sounds like she had done that. I feel like this is a lot of money for boxes, but I'm going to move that we allot her the $3,830 for the donation boxes for the buses, because that's something that we use well beyond this pandemic.
Yeah, and they can be removed when we replace a bus, they're easy to take out and put in the new buses,
And
so,
whenever you change buses or anything, they're very mobile, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
So those will be available to us for many years down the road.
Mhm,
All right,
yes.
we have a motion on the floor by Bob to go ahead and allow $3,830 to purchase the boxes to equip our transportation equipment the way that it needs to be for the safety of our employees as well as our citizens. Entertain a second.
All second.
In a second,
You wanna say which fund you're gonna pay from? So we know.
Community
what about
improvement.
community improvement? To me would be the best fit for it, I think, Angie. You got enough information on that, Angie?
Yes,
Okay?
it's gonna be general fund, do you want the general fund, community improvement line item, or do you want the reserve?
I'd go just general fund, community improvement towards the end of the year now.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Tom raised his hand, so that's an aye. Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, guys.
Sarah, thanks for coming in and presenting it. We appreciate your working for us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Now, Carol, before you leave, this would be one of those things where you get the bill, you give it to us, and we will pay it.
Just send it up to my office.
Perfect. Okay,
You don't have to do it that way.
all right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Connie? Connie Lawrence is our county appraiser, of course, for those that's listening online. And we have a couple vehicle bids that were partially presented last week. Didn't have enough information, and our opinion was we need to do some more discovery, so Connie, welcome.
I had the bids, one for a 2021 Ford Ranger crew cab for the amount of $25,929, and a 2021 Chevy Colorado extended cab 4-door from Cromartie Chevrolet in the amount of $24,950. I'm just wondering if I could get one of each of those. The trade-in values that they're giving us is $2,500 on our Ford Ranger, 2005, and our 2007 Chevy Colorado at $4,500. I didn't know if you wanted to include them in the, as a trade-in, or if you wanted to wait and put them in auction.
If we give them as trade-in, we'll have to have a motion to dispose of them as trade-in.
Okay.
So that would have, and I think that has to be a 2-week notice.
I know you had said that you wanted bids with them and without them, so that's why I put that at the bottom. I wasn't sure what you wanted.
So, okay, the Ford Ranger, that's $25,929 minus $2,500 if we trade it in?
Yes.
Okay.
It ends up with a net of 23,429.
And then if you take 45 up to 24,950, it was giving,
It'd be 20,450. Do we we need to have Connie get with Wade or get some additional?
I think the motion has to be different than what this is.
Yeah. So I guess my suggestion is visit with Wade, get things prepared so that we can document it for the minutes the way it needs to be.
So I can go ahead and,
Is
we're
there
gonna go ahead
any,
and trade them in then.
any consensus on this? I think Connie mentioned here a week ago or 2 weeks ago, there was a fund set up a year ago that was not used. And then also she had funds set up in the current year. So the funds, as I understand, are
I
in
have
place to
approximately
pay for both of them.
60,000, yes, so I have the funds to purchase those vehicles.
I don't have a problem with, basically trading them in. It's just that we've got to get the paperwork
That's
right
Yeah.
in order
Okay,
to do it.
great.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. We just encourage you to get the paperwork documented so we can do it the right way.
Come back.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tom. Next on our agenda is we're in pretty good shape on time, running about 10 minutes behind. The department head meeting, and the purpose of this was to have a discussion with department heads and the commission on salary study. I'm not sure how we're gonna do this to make this available to our citizens. Whether the department head just comes up and has a discussion or a question or a comment or something, probably needs to come up to the podium so that everybody's watching can know who's asking the question. I've been with Angie a little bit before, and you know, I've only been on the board here for a short 4 years. The old STEP program, to give everybody a very, very brief update, was initiated somewhere in 1980. It was somewhat restructured in the mid-1990s. So the plan that's been in place has been in place almost 40 years with a restructuring a little bit in the 1990s. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I'm not real sure, we had department heads and probably some others that thought we ought to entertain a wage study for all of our employees. And it seemed like it kind of got put off the burner. 6 months went by, another 6 months went by. And we finally reached a decision March or April of this year when we interviewed and made the decision we were absolutely going to do the wage study. It's going to be done by professionally. And so we retained a company in the name of McGrath Human Resources Group. And they are highly respected in this particular area of the wage study. And if you've seen the pamphlet that they prepared for us, there's a pile of it. There's 64 pages in the information that they provided to us. So there's lots of information to look at, to entertain. And I know Lisa is not available today by communications, other than if we had a question that we couldn't answer and needed an answer for it, she's probably available by phone, but could not set in for the whole meeting. Anytime you entertain, and although I've been involved in salaries and wages all my life, I absolutely don't have all the answers. Some people say I don't have any of the answers. But I think anytime you do this much of a study structured for 150 employees with 12, 14 different departments, some departments got 3 employees in, some departments got 50 employees in. It is a huge task to get that done to the satisfaction of everybody. And then talking to Lisa, this is not a study that has to be adopted in all or parts or technically any of it. But I think what we decided to do here several months ago that when we got the study back, we was pretty well gonna go along with what they came up with, as long as it was something we felt comfortable with. And I think as long as the old study had been in place, the old STEP program, that it is something that definitely need to be evaluated and put a new one in place. Lisa and her firm are absolutely recommending a STEP program continue, but under a different format. Instead of having 6 different steps, reaching out, which every step is about a 2-year stretch, the new proposal is a 15-year step, and the steps are on an annual basis. So it does reach out 5 or 6 years more for employees than what the old one does. I think, just to give you a little bit of brief, does any of the commissions, or Tom, with you being on Star League, do you have any comments that you want to kick this off with before we ask our department heads for discussion?
No, I don't think so. I think after speaking with you a couple of times like we have, I think you're in tune to this more than I. I haven't had the opportunity to read it as much as I'd like during the last week, so I'll just listen in here.
Okay. Any of you from the department heads would like to come forward and ask a question or make a suggestion, or not everybody stand up at once? Like we said, there's a lots in this new proposal. It's not going to be a perfect fit for every department or every employee, and I'm sure you all fully understand that.
Don, I'll jump
Wayne
in.
Blackburn, Road and Bridge Department Supervisor.
County engineer. So what I have is, one is, thanks to Lisa. I thought she did an excellent job. And actually, she even went beyond. Here last Friday, our employee advisory group actually had met with her in addition to the supervisors on a Zoom meeting. And so she spent an extra hour on her time to explain to our folks the process and what she did. They came away at the end of that meeting, was very impressed with her and the work that she had done. Now, of course, it doesn't hit all the targets for everybody. I mean, you do the best you can, just like any study. I mean, the example I've used multiple times is like a shotgun blast on a target. I mean, you're going to get most of them in the target. You're going to have a few outliers. And so that's what we have with this, but we're very pleased with it in the highway department. But there are a couple folks that are not. And so my really question is, how do you want to handle those if somebody basically disagrees with what their wage or position is going to be? Now, I know there's a little bit more to this to be done as far as the final. One being basically the job descriptions is something that I plan on working with her on for our department. But how would you handle, or what is your suggestion to employees that basically find themselves to be in disagreement with what the study is showing for them? So that's a question I have for the commission.
I've
The
also,
problem with that is, I mean, we go do it for one, and then you got another, then you got another, then you got another, then you got another. We agreed when we started this, that everybody, I believe everybody agreed anyway, that we would do this with McGrath, and everybody would honor it, and it'll be what it'll be. Nobody's getting a cut in salary. That would be my only problem with it. You get one or two that disagree, and then once somebody else finds something they disagree with, and then you gotta adjust that too. So where do you draw the line? It's like everything. Just like you said, shotgun blast doesn't hit every pellet doesn't hit that target. I mean,
I talked to,
the way I understand it, this is just a total reset. I mean, it's basically, this is the way I interpret it, and I didn't get a chance to call Lisa, but everybody is basically at or above where they should be at this point in time. Now, next year, when you pass out a COLA raise, that just takes you, because that's of this year, not as of next year, the way I understand it. So next year, you get a COLA raise or a step increase, if you're eligible for a step increase, then you get those. So I mean, are those employees that are not happy, are they eligible for a COLA and step increase as well?
I think what theirs mostly would have been like a position. How the position fell in the chart compared to others is their argument or discussion.
Oh,
So I think that's where it falls. And with that too, if it falls in one category, if it was up another, that'd been more pay. So basically it kind of goes back. But once again, I support what Lisa has done. I know, as Don had mentioned at the very beginning, it's quite the undertaking. I mean, you're going back through and you're revamping everything. You're looking at all the employees, keeping in mind that she had at least one meeting with groups of employees. She had individual meetings for certain employees that were kind of outside what the normal group was. And then she also had a survey that she done online, in which once again, she had commented over 80% of it was completed by Coffee County. So I think there was a high participation of our employees to have an opportunity to visit regarding this. So once again, they had done quite a bit of work to get where they're at. So.
quite a bit.
Go ahead.
I think that we hired Lisa to do this, but I think also it's time, to my understanding, this was a guideline. This wasn't the gospel put in by someone. I think it's just like anything else that comes from the state or anywhere else. Needs a little bit of local tweaking to make it work for us. And I know Lisa was in the community, but Lisa is not in the community. She's looking in from the outside, which is great. But I think we also need to look from inside the community a little bit. And maybe there are a few adjustments that need to be made just before this is adopted. I'm not one that says, you did it, we're adopting it. I want to take a good look at it. Like Tom said, he hasn't read it all. I haven't read it all. I know Don's got a book and I'm trying to figure out where mine was, but, so I think I know some people want to just rush right in and let's do it. I don't think that's the way it should be done. If there's concerns, I think we need to find out what they are. They may not amount to something, it may not be something we can change. But let's include everybody in the picture. If someone has a concern, let's listen to that concern and find out what it is. And we may not change it, and we might. But I think, it's not just a handful of people we're trying to please here. So I think everyone should have that chance.
And what I had on that is, according to our current policy, is we have a grievance portion of it, that they could file a grievance. So if that's something that you're wanting to do, that you're wanting to listen to the individual concerns, then, how do you want to format it? That's the question. Once again, I'm supporting the program,
I just noticed you wasn't here.
but I'm asking how you want to
wait in the house.
address, how do you want to address it? Do you want these folks to basically file a formal grievance and they go through the policy, or do you want to say, make a list of all the folks that we want to talk to individually, and then you have a panel and you hear it?
Wade kind of took the lead on this. Let's see if we get Wade into,
Okay,
and he will have what we can legally do and can't legally do anyway.
okay. So that's my comment onto it. So I support it,
I thought
but go ahead.
it was a wage thing, not a classification thing, which I can see how the classification would up or lower their pay one way or another. So after digesting that makes for a possible legit error, if you will. So yeah, maybe those are things we need to listen to.
My thought is, the wage study itself, and I'm not talking about the benefits at this time. My wage study, because of the time frame, and that time frame is going to be here shortly, probably need to take a serious look at adopting it as is. And if there are some issues that need to be critiqued, we could do that on a timely manner after we adopt it. If we don't adopt this here the next week or two, we're going to be a very difficult time of getting Denise to change it. And like I mentioned before, the size of this study is totally huge. And there's no way it's going to satisfy everybody. I talked to another department head that wasn't real pleased with the way one or two of her employees were placed. And I'm sure there's some of that out there. That's just gonna be part of it. There was 24 different counties, businesses that Lisa had a huge amount of information from to put this study completely together. Over and above what we already have here in Coffee County, so. You know, I think we probably have a little bit of trouble prolonging this much longer, or else we're gonna be in February, March, and still haven't adopted anything.
And I agree with you on that one as well, Don, because Angie had made the case that it's gonna take several weeks to reprogram the salaries, basically as far as payroll. Also too, with that meeting that we had with Lisa on Friday, one of the things that she did mention, because there was some of that discussion in that meeting too, one of the things was to kind of let it go for a little while and then come back and review it. But you know, once again, I'm bringing up ideas for you to consider how you want to handle these type of issues that may come up. So it's totally up to you, but I just wanted to bring the issues up to you to have that discussion so you can visit about it.
I think when we went into it, and I don't mean to be carrying the conversation technically, but I think when we went into it with 150 employees and the size of this study, we absolutely knew that there was going to be some issues that would come up. That would have to be resolved either immediately or maybe a little bit down the road. And that's kind of where I'm at. And talking to Lisa last week, I talked to her for quite some time, a couple times. Her thought is, and I don't know whether the department heads are aware of this or not, I know the commission is that
That's all I have said, Dan.
okay, thank you, is to adopt the wage study, the parts that we want to, and most of that would be the wage study, changes in the wages, is to adopt it and put it into effect January the 1st.
When was that date decided? That had to be the day it had to be done.
That was the date that was under discussion. Nothing decided
That's
permanently.
what I mean, there was nothing ever decided.
Yeah, correct. That was the target date. And to me, it probably is the right target date, or should be, beginning of the brand new year. At that time, I know we've been doing the COLA in March or April. Last year, we did not do the COLA because of everything that was taking place with the pandemic. But her suggestion is use the wage study that she's put in place, if adopted, make it effective January 1st, so your January 31st check would reflect that. In that, we know what the COLA is going to be prior to that. Include the COLA, if we approve it, increase also in that, be added to it. And then the step changes, put it into effect April 1st. So it'd be a one-time change for all the employees, a step change in April for those that qualify for a step. That's her suggestion. That has not been approved or adopted by the commission. And that's just, and that doesn't get into the benefit package. The question
The
we
only thing
have,
I'd like,
go ahead, Tom.
the only thing I'd like to see would be that the commission be exempt from COLA.
The
I
commission,
don't like county commissioners should get a cost of living increase, because that's, you know, that's not my paycheck that makes my living.
I know you mentioned that to me here last Wednesday or Thursday, so. The question we had that Wayne brought up, Wade, there's absolutely no question there's gonna be a few employees that may not exactly like where they were placed in the grade, or that's exactly placed in the steps, although nobody's wage went down. There were some left at zero. There were some that came up a little bit because of classification. If there's 2 or 3 employees that don't like it, do they file a grievance? Or what will be the process? If we adopt the wage study as given to us, and that's still a what if, those few employees that don't fully agree with it, what's their steps? If we start, you know, if we ourselves take it upon ourselves, well, we're gonna change this employee to a step, that then the next employee's gonna wonder, well, I'm gonna ask for another step or a grade 2. We gotta, in my opinion, we gotta stay away from a chain reaction that will have lots of employees coming in.
Well, what might be best is to have outside of the commission, a department head meeting and to discuss, I don't think we had a meeting to discuss the compensation study to this point. I mean, I'll tell you, wearing the county attorney hat, I expressed my displeasure for the position of some of the employees in the county attorney's office. And think that it is what it is as far as I'm concerned, as far as where that is now. I think maybe the department head should sit down and see if there's a common thread or a common theme, and then maybe visit with Lisa about what those concerns are. But at the end of the day, I think the board gets to make the ultimate decision on whether that salary compensation study is implemented, and then from that point, if there's fallout from there, then I guess we'll have to figure that out. But this is, McGrath was hired as an outside entity to do what they do. That's what they've done. I think, I mean, this has been a long and exhaustive process. I think, as you said, as I was walking in, not everybody's going to agree with what's there, but I think if we can sit down and maybe with the department heads, with Lisa, whether it be by video by Starleaf or in person, and she can answer questions if needed and maybe help sort that out. There may not be any changes, but sometimes people need their voice heard, and maybe once their voice is heard, then Lisa might have a different recommendation. I don't know, because I can't speak for her. But I think the employees deserve to have their voice heard, and at a minimum. Now, I know the timeline that you're talking about, January 1st, is right around the corner, so I don't know how, if that's going to occur, that would have to happen rather quickly. I don't know what Lisa's time and availability is, if it's something she's even willing to do. She's been very receptive in the past, so, and I know at times she watches our meetings, so she might be watching right now.
She's not on today because she thought she might have time to take a phone call, but that's about it for today.
I was just gonna say that would reflect on the January 31st paycheck, not January.
Yeah, it'll be January 31st,
Yeah.
but also Denise
Right. We've got,
probably need 2 weeks to put all that in.
or 3, you're talking January, that's year end, and we've got W-2s, we've got to report to Social Security, IRS, all that, so, I mean,
That's not saying that we couldn't do it this year at the normal time, like April. And maybe the following years, with it already in place, you could do part of it in January.
That's my concern. I don't know where the January 1st date came about, that it's so important that we gotta jump into it when we don't have the facts. I don't wanna get political, but it's kind of me like Obamacare. Let's pass it and then let's see what's in it. I don't wanna do that. I think that the salary, most of the salary part is probably okay. But the position some of the people are in does affect their salaries.
That the position affects the salary. right?
Exactly. So I don't want to jump in and do something, then we come back, oh, we're gonna change this, we're gonna change that. Let's get it put together. I know it's been a long process, but when it's said and done, I hope it works. But let's just don't piecemeal it a little at a time.
Any other department heads want to come forward?
Well, of course. Now, the only thing I would say is, it's been a great process as far as the structure of the study. I still do have some questions for Lisa that I'm putting into writing to get to her. I know one of the things that has happened is, we just recently got Lyon County's, wages for their jail because they made a massive increase there, of $3 an hour for their jail staff because they're having the same problem we were having in attracting people. So I'd like to see the impact that has on the study because they were one of the counties or entities used to as a comparison because I felt like when I reviewed that was an area that was a little low. I felt still was our jail staff for the fact that while the market says and it may on face value be the market price, but reality is also impacted on applicants and the quality of applicants and the ability of the work pool to attract those people. We might want to take a second look at that and just have Lisa look at that. Other than that, I'm putting together some of the stuff I had for her. Overall, it's a step in the right direction. And I appreciate the commission doing that. And the other things I'll put in writing to the commission. Other than that, don't really have a lot. I did like the 2-tier system for corrections officers, deputies, kind of broke them out a little bit. And our dispatchers, 1 and 2, like we had hoped to be able to accomplish. The only thing I haven't seen is the particulars on where people were placed. I haven't seen that. As far as some of the people, when we started the wage study, I put them on hold and didn't do promotions and stuff because we were going to wait for the results of the study. So that would be my only question is I haven't seen those. I don't know if I missed them in an email or if we're even that far along, we may not even be there. I don't know.
You're talking about the job titles?
No, specific employees on where they were placed on the classification system, because we did go with a 2-tier system, like for communications, communicator 1, communicator 2. There's 2 levels. The upper level is based on additional certifications and additional job duties and responsibilities. The only thing I hadn't seen is I have some people that were right there on that, that threshold of from the lower one to the higher one. And I haven't seen where employees fell yet. I didn't see that.
I think and Wayne, I might be wrong, but I think you're kind of saying what Wayne just said. You have some employees that really want to know, why am I in this classification instead of another classification?
I don't know where they've been placed. I haven't seen that.
Can I jump in on that one?
Yeah,
Bob?
isn't that kind of what you were saying? That their questions were,
I think we have a lot of the same discussions, but
I got to see.
the biggest problem I had with comments.
This
from
was sent
folks-
out to all department heads.
I've been having problems with my email. I'm full and then it rejects.
The biggest problem that I had with discussion was when they would compare themselves to somebody else in a different classification, okay? And by making my comparison, I'm pulling names or positions, I'm pulling positions out of the air. So when we compare when they compared themselves, say if they were a mechanic to the janitor, okay? I don't have the sheets in front of me. And they were in the same classification, that was their problem. Okay, but my point was to them to try to explain, you should not be comparing yourself against somebody else in that same group, because the classification was your particular position, and what you do was evaluated against these 15 or 20 other counties.
Yeah, there's 24 other counties in business.
So your position, which once again, she did group interviews, she did individual interviews if there was some outliers that, basically just didn't fit the box of what that title was. Then she had basically the surveys, and then to add to that, she also had the job descriptions too. So all those things being placed in front of her, she wasn't trying to match you again, somebody else in that group. She was trying to match you against these 20 other counties to the best of her ability to say, okay, you are doing this type of work. So that's what I tried to explain. But what I found was so many people were trying to compare themselves against other people or other people in that group. And it's kind of, that group only develops because that wage is about the same for this list of people. And that was been the argument. So for myself, I'm like, if that's your argument, then you have no argument. Because you're not saying that your value of employment is more. You're just comparing yourself against somebody else. Okay? What I'm saying, no, that's the wrong way of approaching it. If you want to argue your position to say I'm being underpaid in this study, then do the research and show your market value to be more than what's being proposed. But you got to compare apples to apples as much as you possibly can. And that's been my problem, my frustration with people that had this report. And so that's where I'm at. Hopefully I explained that.
You get into a study that's this big and this magnitude, and think what it would be like if we had 1,000 employees or more. It's almost impossible to compare and put them into apples and apples, oranges and oranges. There's gonna be questions, there's gonna be concern. Maybe concern isn't the right word, but, and back to your question, Bob, on January 1st, that's been mentioned by Lisa. She kind of gathered that we was wanting something done by January 1st, so it's not set in concrete though.
And I like your comment you made a while ago is that maybe this study, we look at April to implement this study this year, and then we can make it effective on the first of the years after that, instead of rushing into it and making mistakes and not having all the answers. I mean, yeah, I know, I realize it's three months, but, you know,
I do think
still
the
thing to do.
positive part that McGrath did, Lisa had mentioned, was I agree with her wholeheartedly about separating COLAs from the merit increases, do them at separate times, because I think sometimes people affiliate one with the other when it comes to, pay raises, when in fact they're totally two separate deals. They may get the COLA this year, but if they didn't meet the requirements, or they just, to get a step increase, just because you're eligible doesn't mean you're entitled. You gotta.
But if they're doing a quality job, most
Right.
of the time they're gonna.
Based on performance evaluations and all that. But I think it was good to separate the two away from each other, and I hope the commission does take that recommendation to do them independent of each other. I just think it helps to clear a lot of, unmuddy some water, so.
And talking to Lisa, I know she's still keeping a very, very open mind about everything. She understands the magnitude of it. We want to get it as right as we possibly can. And I just kind of lost my train of thought, which is not unusual.
Well, what I told my employees to do was any questions or concerns they might have is to put them in writing to me. Let me look at them. If I can't answer them, then I'll forward them on to Lisa with McGrath and see if those questions can get answered.
So the reason everybody's placed in the grade level and the step level, first of all, nobody takes cut and pay.
Right.
And the grade level that they're in is based on 24 other counties, businesses,
Right.
other big corporations or something. But if we take a lot of the exceptions back to her because of what she's already put in place with a lot of valuable information, and I'm not saying she won't change the position or a grade, but it's going to be a little bit difficult to justify this one and not this change or this change. So it's a tough.
I guess my thought is not to undo what's been done as far as the study goes. I think overall there's so many positives that I don't want the negatives to start creeping in on and putting into doubt the study and overall, because overall the study is a positive thing. And so I'd hate to see that start to overwhelm and consume the conversation. And I just don't, I'd hate to see that, because I think this is a great stride. But Tom, you got anything? I don't know if you had a chance to see it or not,
Karen had her hand up here a while ago too.
so.
Karen, you got something?
Yeah, well, I have a question and it kind of goes along the lines with, what they're asking about, is about putting your staff in. I mean, we have the job and we have the level, but we haven't been told, other than, okay, you're gonna put them in there in comparison to what their salary is. Because you'd said that no one would take a pay cut.
The least time to take up,
Okay,
there's some that's level. The
right.
majority of them are an increase.
Right, but then you put them in there, are you going to start them from there? And they're going to move up each year from there? Or I have people who've only been in a position for a couple of years. So maybe they shouldn't be at, let's say, a level F, they should be down here at a level D.
If they do, they'll take a salary cut.
Right, but are you going to freeze their salaries? Because they really haven't, and we have several people that have started. I mean, if you look at the schedule and you look at some of the different people, there are several people that have in the courthouse, not just in my office, but several people who their pay is going to be there, but they aren't going to get the 15 years that she's asking. That's what I'm asking. Are you, I'll just tell you how I did it and tell me if I'm way off base. I took my first, a couple of my people and said, okay, I'm gonna put them on the scale and say that, okay, if I had hired them at the median wage, here would have been their salary. But because our salary levels are higher in Coffee County, they're now up here. So is that person frozen? Because if in fact they're frozen, I have people that are gonna be frozen in salaries for 6 years.
My understanding is, like if they start out at Schedule F, because that's where their salary currently is and their grade level currently is, based on their recommended title, that when they qualify for that step increase the next year, they would go to step G or step H. They would keep moving up.
Okay,
My understanding is they're not froze.
so are you going to have those
On our hourly
people,
employees.
are you gonna have those people then topped out in 3 years? 3 to 4 years?
Well, they top out when they get to step O.
Right, but
That's 15 years.
if you have people they're not gonna have 15 years because they're already up on this level here.
Even though they may not have enough years of service in them.
Well, they may not have, like I said, if you have people who have 2 years of experience, I guess my thing is, I would like to, rather than, because I don't want to give staff members' names and things like that in public, I would like to personally have an executive session to discuss non-elected personnel with the commission to see where your guidance is as far as, when we put them on that scale, are they gonna grow and then in 3 years, they're gonna be topped out and you're gonna be in the same position you were now because you're gonna have everybody at this top level and you're gonna have no place for anybody to go.
Well, we won't have everybody at the top level, but sooner or later, if they're here long enough, they're gonna hit the top level. Some of them are gonna hit it quicker than what others will because of the projected study.
Okay, well, like I said, I'm
That's
going
my
back to
understanding.
what you guys discussed when we first started doing it, that there would be people frozen, so.
Exactly.
So I'm going back to what was said before and what I understood from that point. That's what I'm going off of. I'm going off of what did I understand when you guys asked and the department heads agreed for the salary study. I guess I just need to know. I'm not saying the salary study is not a good thing. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I personally need to have a better understanding of where does this put my staff?
And I think exactly what you're saying is some of the things we need to get worked out before we approve this or disapprove it, whatever we do. I think so. You have legit questions. Where does it go? Because it was talked about people being froze until their salaries got caught up with them for
Okay,
who knows how long. I mean,
okay, so I was
Yeah.
getting to the point, I was thinking that I hadn't heard
no,
that.
you
but-
had heard that. That was one of the things that was mentioned quite a few times in the beginning.
Okay, and that's, that was where I was understanding that was at. But like I said, I would personally like to have an executive session with you so that we could freely discuss individuals and where they're gonna fall. So I could say, okay, here's my person, and this is what, what they do, and this is how they feel. I would personally like to have an executive session.
So there was discussion on frozen wages, if they were set up much higher than what they are. But their wages, they're not set up higher. Their wages are at the step level based on the wages that they're currently getting.
Right, but if the person's been here for 2 years,
And he's gonna start out at step 6. That's just part of it, part of the study. You don't wanna start them out at wage 2 and drop their wages.
I'm not asking you, I'm not asking one way or another. I'm just saying, I want to have a good understanding. I have my staff that is asking questions because they've listened. I've given them all a copy of this to review over. They have questions. And so I want those things, I would like to be able to go to them and give them an answer. And I feel like that I need to have an executive session, but, I guess Wade could decide if that would be, worthy of, if it meets the criteria.
Well, there was some discussion early on that if somebody was already at a higher level, that their wages might possibly be frozen. But there's no mention of that in here at all. Every employee's wages,
But
they're starting out at a level that they currently are or up to the next step, if they're in between. So technically, based on this study, and I haven't asked Lisa that, but in this study, our non-exempt employees are not frozen.
Okay, well,
Because there's nothing mentioned in here and nobody's taking a pay cut.
right, I understand that. I'm just saying, if I have a person who's been in a job for 2 years, and let's say I hire a new person, I bring them in. Okay, so I'm gonna bring them at a salary considerably lower, and then my person who's been here for 2 years, simply because of the timing of the salary study. Then you're gonna have 2 people doing the exact same job in the same office. And if they're still getting to move up plus the cost of living, you're gonna only increase that wage between them, because that's how it works.
Yeah, really, for every one of these step increases, 2.5% per year. Every step increase, 2.5%. So you get employees that start out in grade 20 versus employees that start out at grade 65. There's a $20,000 gap there, start out with, in those grades.
But I'm not talking
And you
about
go out
grades.
15 years, that gap gets wider because 2.5%, grade 65 grows quicker than grade 50. And I don't like that. I like to do 30 cents an hour, 50 cents an hour. That way, every one of our employees are important. After they're here, they know their job. No employees, in my mind, is no important than anybody else, whether they're making $15 an hour or $25 an hour. That's what I think every employee needs to be making on an increase instead of a 2.5% per steps. Our old step level is 5 to 6% per step. Then you get the COLA on top of it, say it's 2% for higher wages, 2% for the lower wages. That gap gets wider, and to me, that's unfair to our employees. That's the way the industry is. You will not get away from it.
I just think that if you have the 2 different levels and there's such a huge gap, it's hard to keep cohesiveness within your office when they're doing the same work.
When they're hired on, they're gonna understand that, and there's no way to get away from that.
Well, like I
Because you're
said,
gonna hire them into the
I would
first
prefer
3
to,
steps.
I would prefer to have an executive session if we could have that.
Let's see what Wade has. Any other department heads?
I know Wayne and I had a discussion that could maybe help the situation would be, what about just, looking at doing the COLA for January 1st And then it gives this more time to digest, and you're not under a rush on this study until April. Because that's when you're talking about doing the steps and all that. Maybe that gives everybody a chance just to put their stuff in writing, to wait, or to the commission or whatever, and maybe get answers versus bombarding you guys with everything at once. Maybe that would be a better fix. I don't know.
I don't know what it is either, but it does seem like we have to make decisions quick, fast, in a hurry most of the time. This is one I don't think we need to be doing that.
I agree.
And we need to make sure it's done as right can possibly be.
I agree.
So
Yes, Wade?
as it relates to the request for an executive session, my position is if any department head goes into executive session with the commission and the discussion centers around employees and how they would fit into or apply with this new salary and compensation study, I'm not sure the commission is in the position to be able to answer the questions even in executive session.
That's my question.
So I can appreciate and understand why Karen or Randy or any department head would want to do that, but I don't think the board is in a position. There'd be a lot of assumptions and speculation, and I don't think right now is that time. So more time is needed, and then maybe later on down the road, an executive session would be appropriate for, I just don't think there's enough information. And I think what's been displayed today is there's more questions than answers, and implementation is where we are at this point. How is it going to be implemented into the current county structure? How is it going to apply to our current policy manual? My understanding is, based on my review of the compensation study, a lot of policy changes that make this position of wage classification that has been in operation since adopted May 1st, 1995 is being completely overhauled and scrapped. So how is that being done? What does that look like? And as I was taught from an early age, you measure twice and cut once. We need to make sure, in my opinion, that this is done and implemented the right way, and that there's not just some haphazard decision just to get it in the books and on its way. So my encouragement would be, ideally it would be started at the beginning of this next year, but that's just not realistic. If we would have had the results back in July or some earlier month when we had hoped that this would be done, and then we had COVID and everything else, we might be in a position to make it happen in July. But right now, I don't think there should be a push to make it happen. It needs to be done right. There probably needs to be some sort of steering committee behind the scenes to review and look at how existing policy is being changed, to make recommendations to the board on what those policy changes would or should be, and then make a decision from there, because there are so many significant changes. There's even more changes than I thought there would be.
Yeah. I think we all understood it was gonna be a huge undertaking. Like I said, you'll never get it all right. You'll never be perfect fit for everybody. But the way you've heard a lot, and there may be some other comments by other department heads, but you've probably heard the nuts and bolts of those questions or concerns. You've been our contact person with Lisa quite often. And I know you're loaded, can you be the key person to visit with Lisa and kind of give her an update on some of the discussion, some of the questions, some of the concerns? And see where she could be another, guide us and give us more information.
So I can be the point of contact, and we can have the discussions, but even some of the questions that Randy and Karen and maybe everybody has, that they're probably some of the same questions that I have, and they are best answered by Lisa. A lot of the placement into the different classifications, because that's a struggle for me, and it's largely based on what you indicated several minutes ago, but there's this factoring system that I don't completely understand. There's somebody behind the scenes that's one of their specific roles and duties, and it's not based on who your name is, it's based on what your position is and how it applies in this point factoring system. And Lisa can explain that better than I can, because that's not my expertise. That's their expertise, and how they come up with that information is part of why they're in that business, so I can't explain it.
And I'm sure she expected a lot of questions coming back. I'm sure of that because of the size of the study. And this is a question for her. The projected cost of this study, you know, if we get time involved, more time from her, more days involved, is that going to be part of the original cost, or is there going to be a supplement to that? When you visit with her, you might want to ask her that question, or I'll be more glad to ask her too.
I think the implementation, depending on what the scope of that is part of the cost of.
Part of the cost, regardless of how long it takes to reach that agreement to put it in place.
I mean, if there's a complete overhaul or revamp of what's been presented, then that might change it, but
Yeah. Okay.
behind the scenes, she's also working on the job description
Right.
and the HR audit component, which I'm sure, both of those, when those are completed, will have certain recommendations that may impact county policy. So, and I think that's to be expected. I don't know what those.
But to me, it ought to be part of that original contract, but I was just questioning if we get detailed out too long.
And as it goes into the future and the questions about what the scale looks like, pay scale looks like today, 5 years down the road, if I understood what she had mentioned before and what she mentioned originally when she presented to the commission, is every 5 years, there should be a review to see if the current pay structure is within market.
She's suggesting every 3 to 5 years it needs to be reviewed.
And I think another important factor, Wade, is sitting there thinking is, you've got a number of new elected officials that are gonna be coming in. Now would be the time to be able to get them up to speed. You're gonna have a new sheriff, you got a new commissioner, you're gonna have another new commissioner, a new treasurer. Now would be the time to maybe have them get with Lisa so that they can be brought up to speed, because I think it's gonna prompt more questions than answers when they look at all the material. So.
Well, I know Don was kind of pushing for the January deal, but then also Don mentioned the fact, something that I had actually thought about too. When you start going percentages on step increases, pretty soon you get that gap way out here. What he said about a set amount on step increase, I'm kind of for that, but we're gonna have to have a little time to look at that. I mean, so even though Don was kind of pushing for it at the beginning, I think he really is not satisfied with what the salary deal is. So it needs something we need to be taking a look at. And I don't think Lisa's going to be offended if we tear this apart and look at it. If she has the answers, and we can do it. But I don't think she's going to be offended, because it's just like anything else you do. There's always somebody who might see something that you didn't see.
Well, at the end of the day, we're the customer writing the check and they're working. And Lisa, I think McGrath would expect that we would have questions.
She expects questions. I mean,
Absolutely.
I know my contact with her, and I don't have all the questions, don't have all the answers. I mean, I've spent a couple hours with her in the last couple weeks, so. And she's here to work for us. I'm totally comfortable with that. She's here to work for us, but you'll never find, like I keep coming back, it won't be a perfect fit for everybody. There's no way to reach that goal. But
I think consistent, fair, and then move on. You know what I mean?
we got some other department heads. I don't want to take none like you, Randy. or
No,
Ray.
absolutely.
Any other department heads want to say something over and above what we've already heard? Or have we covered your questions and your concerns and what we need to go back to Lisa with?
I have concerns, but I feel like they've all been addressed, so.
And I'm not speaking for all the commission. And January 1st is kind of a target date. There's no question on that, 'cause that's what Lisa was looking for. And that's been kind of a target date back for several months. But like we mentioned, we got to get it done right. If it takes March to get it done, or April 1st, And I think all of our employees, evidently, there's a lot of questions out there, which we expected. We've got to get some things resolved. But, and I guess we'll leave Wade as a point person for you to kind of touch base with. I know Wade's got a good idea in his office. He's also got some questions, so. Tom, you're on Starleaf. Do you have anything else before we kind of wrap this up? And I don't know how we can set a target date down the road, you know, if we have all the answers back from Lisa in 2 weeks or a month. That ain't gonna happen overnight either, because she's got a lot of other opportunities she's working on. So,
Yeah. I think April's a good timeline to shoot for, but, you know, that way we got all questions answered, the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and everybody's content.
I think April doable, but I don't think January 1st is doable.
I think you're right there, right, Bob.
Don't sound like it.
Yeah. I think
I think January 1st was optimistic, not a realistic goal.
Well, it's been kind of on hold, like somebody mentioned, you know, for a long time. And there is no reason to jump into it, although it is important to expedite as quick as we can. So we also got to make sure it's absolutely done correct.
Yeah.
Will that work for you, Wade, to be the point person and all the department heads get back in touch with you in the next week or 10 days? And I can touch base with Lisa, or Tom can kind of give her a brief overlay of where we're at.
Well, he's gonna be department. If he gives me a contact, let him do
Yeah,
that.
let Wade do it. I'll touch base with her and tell her kind of what we're at, and Wade will be a contact, yeah.
What I would suggest is maybe we can have a department head meeting. I can get the collective information from each department head regarding what the concerns are related to what they see. If they're not comfortable with that, they can send me an email or come and meet me in person. But I will make myself available. They can call me. If I'm not available during the day, they can get my cell phone number, give me a call. I'm available at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'll make myself work with their schedule, whatever needs to happen.
Is this agreeable with all the department heads that are here? Is this something that you can be in touch with Wade, give him your questions and suggestions and comments?
Are we talking about having a department head meeting and doing that?
Either or, I'm willing to, I think, in my opinion, this affects every department in the county, every department head. I think at a minimum, there should be a meeting between the department heads, because if everybody has the same questions, the same concerns, then that can be brought up and can be discussed. If there are individual concerns related to a specific department or the way the salary affects that particular department, then that can be done separately as well. But there's no need if the same issues exist all across the board to hear that same issue multiple times. I mean, it seems to be an efficiency issue, but if department heads aren't comfortable talking as a collective unit, then we could meet individually. You just let me know what you want to do.
Okay. One thing that hasn't been discussed is the benefit package. The benefit package recommendations by McGrath, there wasn't much of a change in her recommendations because our benefit package is pretty attractive, other than the vacation. Vacation, as it is currently set up, and I'll just go over this, kind of the highlights. You know, after the first year, our employees get 2 weeks vacation, but they don't qualify for 3 weeks vacation until year 10. 4 weeks vacation, of course, is after 15. And I got so many pages here, I'm not sure, but my thought is, and she also had a step where it went up another week to nearly 5 weeks. My thought is, when I was looking at the vacation, is maybe pick some middle ground between what we currently are and what McGrath is suggesting. After 1 year, employees get 2 weeks. And from 2 to 5 years, go to 3 weeks. Move that up. It needs to be quicker than 10 years. And then from 6 to 12, go to 3, 4 weeks. Correct that. I gotta look, but have a breakout of 2 to 5 and 6 to 12, and then anything over 13, would, be 13.34 hours a month, and I'll get what that comes up to. But try to find some middle ground and allow our employees to get that third week before it goes out to 10 years. To me, 10 years is too long. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, and I can talk to Lisa or talk to Wade and kind of give him what I thought on that. And I haven't talked to any commissioner, so I don't have any idea where the commissioners are at on that. My thought is, how many exempt employees do we currently have? Is there 25?
Probably around that.
And my understanding is we don't have vacation time for them any at all.
None.
And to put them on to make it simpler for Denise, if that's the wishes of the commission. But my opinion is use the same vacation time schedule for every employee we got, exempt or non-exempt. I have no idea where that falls in your ideas at. But that is a projected change that she had. Hers, I think, is a little bit too many hours, but I think we can compromise in the middle and be a plus for everybody. And most of the other benefits, she didn't have too many recommendations. Most of the other benefits are pretty attractive.
So our exempt employees now, department heads, not non-elected, but our department heads, pretty well can do what they want if their department is operating correctly. They can take off an hour here, an hour there if they want. They come in, do whatever they want. So we're gonna start monitoring their vacation. Are we gonna start monitoring their hours? And if we do that, then they're no longer exempt employees. So, and then what's next? Are we gonna start putting time clocks in? I mean,
I'm not
is there really a problem with the way it is now with the department heads? I don't know.
I haven't heard of any problems at all, but if we're gonna do it, to me, I see nothing wrong with doing it for everybody. But if we still wanna leave them exempt, and if they wanna take an hour off here, an hour there, I'm not sure time clocks would be a good fit for the county.
Well, we have 4 department heads that are elected officials anyway, so it doesn't apply to them anyway.
Yeah.
So that leaves not very many department heads left. So I don't know. And I think that's something really need to look at. Is that really something that we want to get into? Up here comes Brad.
I fall under that category and tend to not take vacations because I'm here all the time. This would, if you give me vacation time, use it or lose it, I would tend to use it more. And I know I need to take more time off, but, you know, it's hard to when, you know, my job's a 24-hour-a-day job, you know, and I do have someone that can, you know, cover when I'm not here, but, you know, use it or lose it makes a big difference. That's my opinion.
So it'd be a way to keep track of it without a time clock. Be a way to keep track of it. And you probably feel more comfortable about taking off if you have a plan in place. Like I said, I'm not saying it's a done, absolutely, I haven't talked to anybody. That's my fault.
And I agree with Bob, you know, I'll take an hour or two off to watch my grandkids' ball game. Yeah.
You're not using or losing it now.
I'm not.
It's your option, your choice to be gone or not be gone. And hopefully they would limit themselves to what they feel is a fair number of time being gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I
know I'm not losing vacation time. And you're right, I can take what I feel I need. It's in between, you know, I see where you're coming from, but if I do not, I bet I haven't taken off 40 hours in the last year.
But that's your call.
That's my call.
It'd be your call under if we have policy in place.
Yes, it would be together. That's where Lisa was coming from. She's trying to make you look at your time off too.
But she's wanting to set up 2 different vacation trainings.
Yeah.
To me, it ought to be one, make it easier for Denise to keep track of, easier for everybody to keep track of.
Yes, if you went that way.
But this is something, you know, based on the vacation, this is something the department heads or employees could visit with Wade and see, you know, see where that discussion may go. Because if there's 25 exempt employees, we've only got 4 elected, so we got 21 that's in your position.
Yes.
Non-elected exempt employees.
5.
Right.
Yeah.
That was.
I didn't mean to throw up another red flag, but I think it's something we need to entertain while we're trying to
Yeah.
adopt new policy.
And I think the waiting 10 years is too long.
I'm sorry?
I think the waiting 10 years to get an extra.
10 years to me is way too long. Yeah. That needs to be shortened up.
Okay.
The salary issue, I'll tell you, since I got here 2 years ago, it's been brought up to me multiple times from people who did not understand why the county did not offer vacation time to salaried employees. And having been in a different county where I was a salaried employee as the assistant county attorney, originally in Allen County, I did have vacation time and I had sick time. And the benefit to that was I knew I had the right to take that time off, whether my supervisor wanted to allow it or not. Not that my supervisor wouldn't, but at least you have that built-in mechanism. I don't know if that's an issue here or not, if people feel like they can take time off without some sort of issue with it, but that's one of the advantages to that. And from someone who doesn't take off very much time, especially this year, mental health is a significant issue, and taking time off is important. And if you feel like you have the time that's available because you earned it, that's one thing. If you don't, then do you feel like you're letting people down? I don't know. And it's just a different way to look at it. So I don't know what the right answer is, but that's just a different perspective to think about, I guess.
Well, evidently, in the study of Lisa and the 24 different entities that she talked to, evidently it's a pretty common practice to have exempt employees on some type of a vacation structure.
I know originally how it got started was the exempt employees at that time, the reason they didn't get any vacation because, as I recall, FLSA was the issue at the time that said you can't be truly exempt and get benefits that the same as hourly employees, vacation, sick. Either you're truly exempt or you're not. And that was at the time, and I think so much has changed since then that I think it allows for vacation and sick time now that may not have at the time. That's just the history of it when they went to exempt positions on a classification system.
You know, we've been talking here for an hour, 15 minutes, give or take some. I think we probably have heard all as many questions as we possibly can. Although some of you haven't spoke, but I'm sure some of your questions are similar to what's already been discussed. Wade's going to be our point person to be in touch with Lisa. And I think we've came a long ways here in the last 6 to 8 months. And sometime in the next few months, get everything totally put together the best that we possibly can. And like I said, it will not be, there's no way it'll be a perfect fit for every employee. But Tom, you're on Starlink. Do you have any final comments before we kind of wrap this segment up of our commission meeting today?
No, sir.
Any other commissioners have any comments, suggestions?
If we hold off on that, what about the COLA?
You know, that, nothing's been discussed on that. Normally, that's not done until April, March or April. We haven't done it, any earlier than that, unless, back 10 or 20 years, I don't know. I'd have no problem at all, I don't think, of doing, and I didn't in this presentation, doing COLA January 1st.
I'll just mention in the 14 years I've been here, we have never combined COLA with, step increases or anything anyway. And we usually do March or April, we do
They
COLA.
expect April 1st, I
Yeah,
think.
because we have never combined it as part of your step increase. You got the COLA no matter what else was going on. So I don't see that that's a problem.
Yeah, I had no problem at all putting that in place January 1st. If that's the direction we decide to go in the next week or two. At least that would let our employees know that we're trying, if we decide to do that, at least that makes the employees know that we're trying to be aggressive, trying to help out the best we can during this pandemic.
If understood correct, last year, there wasn't a COLA.
No COLA, we did the step increases for those that qualified for step, if they qualified under the department head guidelines.
One thing you might want to think about, if you do a CPI in January, it's going to affect every one of these wages before we ever do the salary increase again.
That'd be the only issue of doing, we need to make sure police wouldn't have to go back through and restructure the 150 employees. That'd be the only reason, in my mind, to hold up the COLA January 1st.
I think that'd be a good reason.
Pardon?
I think that would be a good reason.
Well, it'd be a good reason. If it's gonna change that whole format, we need to wait to April like we always have, and then we can adjust it next year. This way,
I think her recommendation from my conversations with her was to start the CPI or the COLA in January and then the other in April. So I think that's taken into account. The only thing you'll need to think about is because historically the COLA has been evaluated based on the CPI from the end of December, the prior year. I don't know in January if you have that CPI figure, so maybe they'll have it out.
That's why we always did it when we did it, because we got that and then we would take it all based off of that.
I understand that's just something to keep in mind. Last year, the CPI, if I remember, was 2.3. I'm not sure, I mean, if you look at it, this 2020 has been a moving target, so I don't know what it would be or where it's even, what the figures are right now. I mean, we probably at the most maybe have November, but just something to take into account.
okay. Everybody agree to move on? For you department heads and all the employees, we certainly appreciate you being a part of this. We appreciate your questions, concerns, discussion. And we'll work into a way to visit with Lisa and try to get something where we can come back with some additional information here. And, whether it's 2 weeks or 4 weeks, like we continue to say, we've got to make sure it's done as right can be. So,
Thank you guys very much.
May I ask just one quick question?
okay, Karen?
I guess it's more of a comment on the COLA increases, since they weren't given last year. I would just like to say, I think January would be a good time to give that. And also from the standpoint of our budget, we had all budgeted for it for 2020. We didn't allow for it in 2021, and now we're seeing some changes that are going to take place with our thing. Would it be possible for us to hold that, what would have been our COLA increase? Would it be possible for us to put that into the fund that you guys were setting aside for additional pay? Would that be
something we could do from our departments to allow that extra percentage to help with our 2021 budget. So, just a thought.
Yeah, but chances are the COLA, you know, it probably won't be more than 2%. I have no idea where it's gonna be. I know where Social Security stepped in that. But, you know, if it's 1% or 1.5%, for most departments, they've got enough funding there in place to take care of a small COLA like that.
Right, but we've got some that with that new schedule, if they were, let's say they were making, I'll just say $22, and that schedule says that, okay, it's either 2170 or 2270. Now I've got a 2270, so I've got an additional pay there. I'm just asking that we can put some of that money aside, out of our own departments to help us with the 2021 budget.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Well, we're sitting at about 11 o'clock. You want to take a 10-minute break?
Take a break.
We'll, take a
Take a break.
10-minute break.
Get things outside. We can have a break.
I got one.
You ready to testify?
What?
Which one of them is from this area? Which one of them got ties to this?
Well, yeah.
We get another two on the
Yeah.
No, he is obsessed with me testifying. He got me on the hot seat, and he loves me. I did. I think you might be.
Do we have a projector we can set up?
Yeah.
I still have my engineer's report to do.
Want to sign in? Specific employees in the classification, where are they at? That's the, I think that's the.
Yeah. Okay, so I didn't do that, so let's try it again. All right, Kenny, sign in. You can't.
I wasn't real sure how that.
Okay.
Whatever was on that paper.
Well, I forgot. Okay, didn't change it.
Alright. Oh, different kind of type.
Yeah.
Up in the air.
Hi, Kenny.
Hello.
People were wondering about.
Could we get the emergency management's projector?
They were trying to ask
If
that.
I can get you connected to the internet, connected to server.
Well, I don't want to kick Tom off.
You'll be able to see it
Yeah. Okay.
that way.
All right.
Give you a minute. Hey, take a 10-minute break. Take a break. Take a break.
Get your car fixed? What? Total? Really? But internal or, no joke. Doesn't take much though anymore. Wow. Yeah, yeah. That shit's expensive. I mean, you start to, I couldn't believe it's total though, cause. Yeah.
The insurance was just gonna write me a check, they didn't want me to do it.
Really?
They gave me the option, and that would be the salary.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
And I talked to my state farm
Yeah.
insurance rep, and he said,
No, you wouldn't.
you hit
We got State Farm too, and yeah, you don't have, salvage title's not a good thing unless you just need an old work vehicle. You know what I mean? Farm truck or something that's total.
Yeah.
But for you, you know, for what you're using it for, you wouldn't be happy. No.
So that changed.
They total it, let them have it.
Mhm.
Come here, boy.
They're
We
coming
can,
to get it Thursday.
I can buy me another one.
Mhm. And I'm thinking,
There you go.
they're not going to come on.
Well, okay, get this. Caitlin, her accident, her vehicle's obviously totaled. We still haven't settled because we want 17,000 in Everett. We had Everett Marty do some checking for us. 17,000 is middle of the road.
And then we want to give her 16,000. I said, no, we want 17,000 plus sales tax. Put the sales tax on there because we have to buy another vehicle. Well, they're giving me 1,000, they're giving me crap over $1,000. I said, the poor kid's been through hell and back. And you're gonna, and that's crazy. It is, yeah, and now, you know, she's still looking for a vehicle, but she can't buy anything until we settle this. And then we're gonna screw the kid out of $1,000. It's our own insurance. It's our own insurance. But she's at heart, yeah. State Farm. Yeah. Patty's not happy with me either. Patty's like, and she's like, no, she doesn't. It's the national claims. And she's like, well, here's a couple of Ford Escapes. I said, the problem with those, they're $16,000, but they're the lower end one. She had the titanium, which is the top of the line with all leather, and there's a difference. There's a difference between the lower level and the top. And she's like, oh, I didn't realize that.
You still there, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just getting back in here.
And she's like, oh, well, I'll
Yeah.
take care of this.
Wayne gonna have enough time for this PowerPoint thing?
I'm sorry?
Wayne gonna have enough time for this PowerPoint, and then you got round table, and then lunch, and then interviews at once.
Yeah.
Our lunch will probably be very, very short. It'll probably be zero lunch. Yeah, we're at 11 o'clock. We'll see where Wayne wants to go.
Yeah.
I don't know how much there is on roundtable. I have no idea.
Well, that resolution's gonna be brought back up, Don.
What resolution's that?
Mass.
And we gotta look at that again. Right?
Yeah. I probably got that buried over
We'll need Wade for that one.
there. Pardon?
We'll need Wade for that one.
You're talking about this way? You're talking about that?
No, the mass, the resolution.
Oh, where are we at? Say, I think we already did this 2 weeks ago. That's on increasing the allowance to carry hours over to the
No, yeah,
general.
this is on
Yeah.
whether we're gonna continue with mass.
29 counties opt, as of a couple days ago, 29 counties has opted out. I don't know if that's saying 76 agreed to do it or not.
Well, and some of those are right around this too, that opted out. Well, it's like Miami County, they didn't take any action, so it just automatically went into effect. That was their way out.
I'd say a lot of counties that probably did that. I haven't heard how Allen did. I knew Anderson had opted out.
Anderson, Osage.
All I can tell you is I thought I was doing everything I needed to do. Here I am.
Yep, no guarantees, that's for sure. All it is.
Saline County adopted the mass program.
Which county?
Saline, the sheriff said, I'm not going to enforce it.
So we get.
So the city of Salina adopted it,
Work once again.
and the chief of police went out and hired extra help. And they're going into bars and restaurants and finding people and everything for it.
That's just counterproductive.
Yes.
How does it look overall? Look okay?
You sitting up there, Brad, for,
Yeah. Oh, no. Okay.
For Wayne.
Trying to get Wayne to join the Starlink meeting so he can present his presentation.
Bow out for sure.
Well, I want to keep you in it, we should be able to get both of you on here, and he could project his screen, or you could see it also.
With the landfill.
But it doesn't want us anymore.
With the berms and stuff.
It's all right. Again, like I can bow out and you can call me when this PowerPoint's over. And
Yeah, is that how you wanted?
I watched the meeting.
Not necessarily.
I watched the meeting.
I left it.
You know what, yeah.
Kind of what I thought.
We can do
I
that.
watched the meeting be
Somewhere or
YouTube.
another when I copied it.
Then I was tuned back into Starlink around.
When I resized it, it only.
You know, the next
That
part
make
of
it
it,
easier.
you know, the next part of this is with our county agent. County engineer talked to us about the road tour.
Yeah.
And then we'll have roundtable. And then we have the interview start at 1. You want to make any plans to bring a lunch in? You want to just skip lunch? And I can go either way,
Surely we'll be out where we can go to lunch, won't we?
depends on the roundtable.
This
here's supposed to be an hour plus.
Maybe an hour plus of this.
That's what he set up.
Vote on.
Okay. That's what he asked for last week.
I'd just soon have some lunch sometime.
It makes no difference. I wouldn't mind having a sandwich. We'll make it.
When you gonna have it?
We'll see what.
I don't think I have good enough internet connection to do it.
I don't mind.
Brad, are we up and ready?
If I may, Don, I have an engineer's report that's gonna require some motion, so I don't wanna lose, I don't wanna lose
You got a
Tom.
lot of motions.
So I don't wanna lose Tom on this one first, and then we'll try to do it where we can get you on there and see the 2021 project, proposed project.
Like I say, I can go on YouTube and watch you guys live, so.
Yes, but let's get you on that, definitely for the motion. What this is special issue checks. And so, as we basically, had to close the books a little early there in November, these are additional ones, they needed the, to be paid. So, as you all have the, engineer's report, no road permits, no zoning permits. We have the November landfill waste summary included.
What's inside special waste?
Well, special waste is basically,
1,900 ton there for a month. What's,
now that, for the 1,900 special waste, what you're doing right there, is we have at least, there's 2 contractors that's hauling in, some basically soil that's contaminated. So it could be like fuel, where somebody had removed a fuel tank. And so now you have all the soil around the fuel tank is being removed. One of them I know is from Emporia, and I believe Jeff said there was another one here local. So, but I can get you more information on it.
I'm
but
just
that would be
curious why it's
special waste.
1,900 ton. That's a lot of semis. What do we get paid for that?
I would have to double check the rates onto it. I have them here. Let me see.
I don't want to take any time away from you. I just noticed 1,900 ton, that's a lot. A lot of semis.
Should be the same as anything else, isn't it?
Special waste,
That's, I'd say it'd be a little higher.
solid waste is $15 a ton. And out of county is $24 a ton. And then we have special waste, basically is $15 a ton in county and $24 a ton out of county.
Okay. That brings in quite a few dollars there.
We also take space in our landfill.
Yeah, that's a lot of space too.
Well, some of, if it's soil, it can be used as basically like a daily cover. So there is some double benefits with that. Okay, so the next one, or the motion that we have, is to accept and sign the CP2 for the new full-time position, equipment operator. And Donna, do you have
I do.
a copy of that? Pass around. Mr. Wanzer.
It's in their books.
Okay. So that would be our standard motion for that. You'll be in the seating and signing, or sign and seating and mowing crew. Bringing him in as an MB2 at $16.97, our current wage chart. starting here next week, next Monday.
Anybody got any questions on that? Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Tim is moved. I don't know this young man, but I've known the family back 25 years ago, but also moved. Second, any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is what we had in our 2020 budget for equipment. And so with that, we had talked about previously, basically the approval to make invitation to bid, go out and take bids on a pickup truck. And then we also had a discussion for the trade-in of an existing 2008 Chevrolet 3/4 ton truck. It's T51. The current odometer onto it is 221,900 miles. We purchased it in 2008 from Cromartie Ford at $27,404. And so that is the first motion is basically if we're accepting Cromartie as low bid for best bid for the new truck, we're also doing the trade-in, and that would be motion A. And the trade-in is $5,000 for the truck I just mentioned.
Okay, do A first, correct?
Yes, sir.
This is motion 2020-58. A, based on recommendation of the county engineer and approval of the county attorney as to form, move to find that one T-051 2008 Chevrolet 2500 VIN number, last 6 numbers 207188, is no longer required or cannot prudently be used for public purposes of Coffee County, and as such should be disposed of by trade-in to Cromartie Chevrolet. Notice of the board intention to dispose of said property will be published on the December 10th, 2020 and December 17th, 2020 in the official county newspaper.
Does that not need what the trade-in value is for that? Because I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the next motion and it says trade-in value of 5,000, but the next motion doesn't say the trade-in value 5,000 of what? Somewhere we need to explain that that's for this truck.
We can add it in there, Bob. I can't say that I've had it in there before, but it doesn't hurt to add more information.
Where the two motions are hooked together, they're hooked together, probably not necessary.
They are hooked together. On B, basically, we state what the trade-in is, and we also have a list of the bidders.
Specifically, probably a weight question, but to me, being hooked together.
And on the motion, the one that I take to the newspaper, I don't believe we have. Yeah. However you'd like to do it, more information, you'd like to add more information, we can add more, but that's the standard template for the most part that we've used in the past.
Doing less weight would disapprove it, I think. With it being kind of tied together, I'm not sure, but that's just my opinion too. As is, does anybody want to move? I think because they're tied together, to me, less weight will offset. I'll go ahead and move it, to move motion 2020-58.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried 5-0.
Okay, and then on the next one, as you can see, we have 2 local bidders, one Cromartie Ford, one Cromartie Chevy. We also went out and looked at their Emporia for a Dodge Ram, trying to meet spec as much as possible, one being a Ford, one being a Chevy. The Chevy came in as low bid from Cromartie Chevy. The base price was $47,557, less the government discount of $9,600, less the trade-in value of $5,000, bringing the delivery price with trade-in at $32,957. That would be our recommendation. And that is a standard warranties of 3 years, 3,600 bumper to bumper, 5-year, 6,000 miles for powertrain.
You may have done it, explain to me one more time why we're getting rid of a 3/4 ton and getting a 1/2 ton.
For the last several purchases, we have downgraded to the 1/2 ton. Some of the discussions I believe we all agreed to as well is as the 1/2 tons has came in a little bit lighter, they're also capacity wise are able to carry a lot what the 3/4 tons were back in the day. It's not to say that we don't need 3/4 tons, but unless you're actually pulling consistently trailers or having a considerable amount of weight as far as toolboxes, fuel, different things like that, we find that the 1/2 tons for scale of economy is the better choice for the purchase. And so that's where and why we started going towards some of the 1/2 tons. It's not to say we won't buy 3/4, but then at that point, I think you'll find a certain use for a certain crew that will basically validate the need for a heavier, beefier, more tight truck.
And you're getting this truck, right?
At this point, that's the designation.
And what are you giving away for it? A 1/2 ton or a 3/4 ton?
It's a 1/2 ton, sir.
It's a 1/2 ton.
Motion before us is 2020-58B. Based on the recommendation of the county engineer, move to approve the bid from Crow Money Chevrolet for one 2021 Chevrolet 1500 Silverado four-wheel drive short crew cab truck in the amount of $47,557. Less governmental discount of $9,600 and less the trade-in value of $5,000. In the total purchase amount of $32,957. And to authorize and direct the county engineer to sign all documents related thereto. Funding to be paid from the general fund public works equipment line item. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Tom, you moved? Okay, Tom has moved. I'm sorry?
I moved.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Tom move also?
Okay, Fred's moved.
Oh, there you go. Now you move to the top again. There you go.
Okay, Fred has moved. Entertain a second. Is he saying second?
No, it's echoing.
Okay. I'll go ahead and so second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you. The next motion I have is, we've done this before. Actually, I believe it was 2 years ago, we made the first motion and we have been implementing it for the last 2 years. And it's the gravel road enhancement. So what we're doing here is we're recognizing several sections within the county that only have about approximately 2 to 2.5 inches of gravel. And so what we're wanting to do is add more gravel to those sections. This will not necessarily complete it, but it does add more gravel within our current road system. And this is beyond our construction projects. So that is money that we're asking comes out of the special highway fund. It's not necessarily projects that we said this is going to be our 2021 projects, but it will actually be done in 2021, but the funds will be coming from the special highway fund. So as you see there, the list, this would basically by approving this motion, then what you're also doing too is you're approving these locations to add the additional miles. And it looks like I jumped ahead on the motion, so I apologize on that one, Don. So I just jumped right into the gravel road. So jumping right into the gravel road, that's the motion 2020-61. I apologize, thank you.
Okay, I haven't lost for a minute.
Yeah. So with that, and it's somewhere, what I'm trying to do here is somewhere around $200,000 is what we're looking at as far as adding additional gravel to these locations. So
Would that just be part of regular maintenance, road maintenance? I mean,
this is above and beyond that. But yes, I do have a chart where we have what we call regular maintenance of gravel roads and roads that we identified that require a little bit more work onto them, so we're adding gravel there. But these roads are actually in addition to those. So these roads are saying, okay, we have surveyed all of the gravel roads in the county. We have actually potholed all the gravel roads in the county. We have the thickness of all the gravel roads. And so, and really what started this, to give you a little history onto it, is when we had the wind farm up in Waverly. One of the things were basically how would the roads hold up with the wind farm traffic? And so we actually had potholed all those gravel roads up there, and then we found where we could do the same thing throughout the county. So that's what we had done. So by doing so, we basically evaluated the roads that needed more gravel for whatever reason that put them in that place. It's to try to take care of it and adjust it today. So.
Motion 2021-61, based on the recommendation of the county engineer, move to approve the request for authorization to purchase and place additional gravel. Do we need to put $200,000 in that motion someplace?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We have the locations,
Okay.
and that's just an estimate. What you're doing is you're authorizing me the additional gravel for these locations.
Okay. All right.
And so.
Additional gravel for various roads in the county is listed below for continuing the county gravel road enhancement program. Funds to be paid from the special highway fund.
So if we don't approve this, none of these roads are not gonna get gravel?
These roads will not be, no additional gravel will be added to them beyond what we have normal maintenance that we already have scheduled in our book. And so if they start failing at different locations, there might be spot ins. But when you're only dealing with 2 inches, 2.5 inches of gravel on a road, it's really not enough gravel to maintain it. I mean, you're gonna spend a lot more time maintaining that type of road. Can we, if what you're saying, can we add it to our 2021 budget? Then Bob, I would ask that what you have to take a look at is when you ran my budget for 2021, you're gonna find, now I'm just pulling numbers from my head here, is you're gonna find about $700,000 for gravel that I have allotted for the budget. But I did not allot another $200,000 for this. So if I had done that, that would have increased my mill levy to do that. So I have special highway funds that actually become funds available at the end of the year when we do transfers. That's the reason why the special highway fund is so important, to be able to transfer some of that money in there for these special type of projects.
Okay.
If I remember right, we did the same thing last year.
Yes, sir.
I think we did the same thing. 28th Road, Blackburn Road to Contour Road, Iris Road, 23rd Road to 24th Road, Iris Road, 25th to 26th Road, 27th Road, Planter Road to Quail Road, 20th Road is Oxen Road to Planter Road, Quail Road is 18th Road to 19th Road, 27th Road is Shetland Road to Trefoil, 27th Road is Trefoil Road to Underwood Road, 28th Road is Reaper Road to Shetland Road, 18th Road is Quail Road to Reaper Road, Yearling Road, 17th Road to 18th Road, 11th Road is Quail Road to Reaper Road, 10th Road is Ventura Road to Wayside Road, 9th Road is Underwood Road to Ventura Road, Reaper Lane is 3rd Road to 4th Road, 10th Road is Native Road to Oxen Road, 10th Road is Oxen Road to Planter Road, 5th Lane is Native Road to Oxen Road, 5th Lane is Oxen Road to Planter Road, Iris Road is 1st Road to 2nd Road, Iris Road, 2nd Road to 3rd Road, Fauna Road is 4th Road to 5th Road, Dalvin Road is 8th Road to 9th Road, Contour Road is 9th Road to 10th Road, Contour Road is 11th Road to 12th Road. On Trefoil Road, I think between 3rd and 4th, where the river went over a year ago, did we ever put rock on it?
I would have to check.
Last time I was down
maintenance
there,
onto it.
when it's wet, it needs rock in the worst way.
And that one would fall within our maintenance as far as our budgets and
Because
such
it
as
is,
that.
it is. The oil people, I've been critical of the oil people because they're great people working.
Yes.
But there's a lot of traffic, and when it's wet, we need it. I talked to Jeff Ryan on that, so.
Mhm.
We've got a motion before us, entertain a, I'm sorry, say that again?
No.
Bob's being honored.
What was that third one?
I'm not sure why they need to be read, I don't know what people, but I guess we're supposed to. Entertain a motion to approve 2020-61.
I'll make that motion.
Tim is so moved, entertain a second.
Okay.
Fred is second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you. And once again, I apologize for skipping on the motions, Andy. It's something like Thanksgiving dinner. The plate that's biggest in front of you, the ones you attack. So that was the one with all the roads. So that's the one I looked at.
Yeah, that's okay.
So the next one is we had a resignation for a position. And with that being said, we have a section blade operator position open. We're gonna look at this both ways. I mean, in-house is generally the preference. Okay, if and when we have somebody in-house that's gonna be able to do this, then we basically are able to promote them, then we'll promote them up and then go from there. But on this particular one and where we're currently at, we're gonna go ahead and advertise both ways. So once again, in-house will have the preference, but we're also advertising outside for a blade operator that might even become an equipment operator, but at least we'll have an application. So.
Motion 2020-60, based on recommendation of the county engineer, move to approve the request for authorization to advertise and hire one full-time section blade operator. No new position is being added. This request will only fill a current resignation of position within the department. Also move.
I'll second.
In a second, any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I don't see Tom on there, but motion carried 5-0.
Thank you. And I'll take a few minutes and we'll get started on our projects. This would be the end of the year projects that we finish, that we normally do a road tour. But with the COVID and such, where we're at today, I think it might be best, unless you'd like to change that, is to show you of several projects that we have completed. It's by no means a complete list. And then also have some discussion of the projects we were proposing for 2021. This goes into our standard book that you would receive at the end of the year, first of the year, that shows our proposed 2021 project.
What's your projected time frame, Wayne?
I can make it in 30 minutes.
We got
I can go.
We got round, not to cut you short, we got round table.
Okay.
And then I know one or two commissioners might want to grab a sandwich because we got candidates in at 1 o'clock.
And if there's more questions, if you'd like to follow up some of it next week, we could do that too.
We can follow up next week. If you can hold it for 30.
The projects that you have done,
Would you like to see those first?
I was gonna say, if you could cut those kind of short, because we actually saw them during your presentation down the shop, and some of us did anyway, I think. And we know what those projects are, basically, so.
And a lot of the photos are from those. You just let me know and, we'll go from there.
We'll try to shut you down at no later than noon, a little bit quicker if we could.
Yes, sir.
And I don't mean to be negative.
It's up one.
Yes. Okay. Well, there we are. Okay. Well, let me get the maps for just a moment, but yes, thank you.
Tell us what you want to do, and then we'll tell you if we want to see what you've done. How'd that work?
That might be the best way to do it. Look for 2021.
We have to cut him off, we can cut him off with what he's done.
Well, this would be maps for 2021. At the end of the day, both of them are important, so there's no question on that. Because I'm to advise you of the progress that we have made for the funds that were budgeted and used. So, and then the next one is to update you on the proposed projects that we're going to have. So Tom, here's your copy. Okay, so 2020 in review, sounds like we're gonna go through them pretty quick, so let's go ahead, we'll just, click on film and go. So on this one is, one of our projects that we had was cell number 4. This is at the landfill. And so on this particular one, I'm just identifying where cell number 4 is. It's a 3.9 acre, tract. After this one, we'll have 2 more cells to build. So we'll go to the next one.
Projected time frame on this new cell, 3 years, 5 years?
At this point, we're looking every bit 8 years.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And so they were initially started out at 6 years for the cells. But on this one, what you're going to see is since we're going to the corner, you're actually going to see where we can add more gradient, more slope to the waste. And so that gives what you're seeing there is basically our construction plans that was sent out to the contractor. Contractors Clean Air and Water, liner material placed was $199,800. Filter rock was Harshman Construction. And so charge on that was $231,700. And county forces for our labor and equipment costs that we have so far, which is not 100% complete, but nearly complete. We're trying to do the other half of the filter rock. We still have that scheduled. You'll see that on the engineer's construction zone report. And so this one, close to $250,000. So a total of $681,500. The QC, QA, which is a requirement from KDHE to have a third party. This would be a party that actually goes in, does all the testing, make sure that we have the consolidation in the clay liner, and then also that the plastic liner seals, welds are complete as well. And so that was $72,186. And we did the in-house plans for the construction and also the specifications for this project. Okay, so that was done. All right, that's just some of the detail. Kenny does an excellent job in the drafting, and those are some of the details that he has. This is the photo finish of the liner of cell number 4. So you can see the liner, you can also see the filter rock in that picture. Okay. County work orders, this is a list of work orders that we have, and I can provide copies of those to you if you like. And so of those, we have 5 snow and ice events, landfill cell number 4. Now, this is not all inclusive of work that's been done in 2020. This is basically most of it, because we have it through work orders. We have 11 miles of hot mix asphalt. We had then 38 miles of chip and seal and fog seal. We had 109 or 106 locations of roads, basically added rock. Maybe not on there. I did not add that correctly. I did not add that in there. 6 miles of ditching, 23 miles of crossroads pipes replaced, 24 structures repaired, 2 replaced concrete structures. Matthias Lake project, as you can see, we're down there now, making some progress. And then we had 231 county-wide work orders. These are work orders that we generate to say, hey, we see a problem, we need to correct it, we need to basically go out there and basically fix it because it's a safety hazard. And so we had 231 of those in 2020. We had 134 public work order requests. So those could be everything from wanting to put in a new drive, wanting to correct a drainage issue on a drive, for example, saying that there's a drainage issue on the road that's causing the water to basically cause damage to their side of the road. Those type of things come into play, and we try to address them as we can. 80 entrances, pipes replaced, 50 locations for erosion and ditching, repairs, total and county costs, labor, equipment, material for $3.2 million. Once again, those work orders come from our STAR program, and so we track through our time cards the labor, equipment, and material, and we're able to show you that cost. So we go to the next one. This is the new asphalt on Shetland, 12th, 16th. Okay. This is the fog seal, chip seal. Now, what you're seeing, this is some discussion we had earlier. So I'm going to go back on that one just a little bit. Is a person says, well, Wayne, you're losing chips. Well, when that first happened, when we first done that, that's what we thought too. But when you get out and you take a look at it, and I'm not advising people to stop in the middle of the road and take a look at the chips, but when we have, in a safe manner, we notice that basically the limestone chip that's sticking up, that's not embedded into the oil, when we go out and do a snow plow, and that snow plow is riding right on the road surface, it's shaving that rock off, or it's shaving the top of the rock. It's not dislodging the rock, it's just shaving the rock. So actually you make the roads smoother. I mean, that's what you're doing. But then also too, is when you look at the fog seal, it almost is equivalent to a hot mix asphalt, meaning there's so much oil, so much rock embedded into it, is after that point, you have basically a very tight road surface. And keeping in mind that it's a seal, the word is seal, it's chip seal, fog seal. What is it sealing? It's sealing an asphalt road surface. And so you're trying to prevent the water from going down to that subgrade. That's a seal. Okay. So we'll go to the next one. Gravel road project, Danny, from 4th to 5th. And 9th, this is before. 9th, Milo before and after. Okay. And Milo 0.25 before and after. Now, when you saw this before, you're saying, well, that looked like a lot of dirt. Well, what you're doing is once again, when we shade those edges, we're bringing some of that dirt up, and that rock gets buried underneath. And so that's what we're doing. You're also seeing over there on the right-hand side, that particular one had that straw matting placed down. Now, you're going to see that throughout our photos. The person says, well, that costs quite a bit. About 100 foot of it is just under around $30. I think it's about 8 foot, 12 foot wide. And so, but when you take into account moving equipment back to take care of erosion issues, we far exceed the cost of placing that mat down.
Is that matting got seed in it, or you seed it first?
We seed it first. Yeah. Some of it you can buy that way, but as you know, once we set that matting down, that seed can sit there for quite some time, and it still takes, it'll still seed itself and plant. 9th Milo, okay. Milo 0.5 before and after. So when we're in the area doing, say, if we had a particular area where we're needing to replace that culvert pipe, we don't just replace the culvert pipe. We also take a look at what's the ditching needs, what's the drainage issues that we have, and try to basically correct those problems as we're there. As you know, while you got the equipment there, it's better to take care of it there. Now that doesn't mean that if there's a project a mile away that you jump to that other project a mile away. You still have to have priority as far as what projects that you're going to be working on. But while we have our equipment there at that particular spot, that location at that time is the one that we're working on. So, okay. Go to the next one. And if you'd like to, at this point, we can just rapidly go through these because you're going to see a lot of befores and afters. And so I'm getting some nods. So if you take just a second or two and just start flashing through them, and then as we can, and if you want one that you want to visit about, I'll be glad to give you more insight on it. Hello. That's over the Matthias Lake project. That's one of those precast culverts. And like Matthias Lake before. And after. As you can see, the material's moving out in the fields, and you can see the larger capacity of the structure too, of the ditch. That particular intersection, 9.5, those are temporary pipes. We actually have scheduled for 2021 a replacement structure that's going to be more permanent. But at this point in time, we went ahead and put the pipes in that will work. And we're not changing that force slope. That force slope still remains a 3-to-1. That's the way it was. You can still see the existing grass. We're not changing it. We're definitely making it deeper. But when you take a point at the very north end, which is 11th, and you take the point which is draining to, that's what's driving our elevation, our depth of our ditch. This one is, stop there for just a minute. As you saw that tree right there, what we have is we have landowners that say, hey, I'm gonna put in a fence. So will this work? It's on the end of our list. But it does require my land surveying to go out, and we'll survey the right-of-way as a convenience for the landowner. And then that way we also do the extra work in that area as well. We'll take the time to clean out the ditches, shape the ditches, and shape the right-of-way in that area. As no fence is in place, we're not replacing a fence. We're not having to pay for a fence, but we're clearing our right-of-way. And so it's improving our roads. Okay. Go to the next one. That was before, and then as you can see, this is after. As I say, it's a list that basically towards the end, what we can do when we have the time. We look at safety first, always first. Okay. And we'll wrap it and go through those in after you get a chance to take a look at each one. Okay, for proposed projects, this is basically the map and documents that you have. This is the spreadsheet that you have there. So 38.5 miles chip seal proposed, 43.5 miles router crack seal, 38.5 miles fog seal. Estimated cost $774,000. We have 13 miles of farm access roads. This is the major ditching with assistant fleet. Some of the photos that you saw previously. Estimated cost $780,000. 23.5 miles miscellaneous grading. This would be where we have the blade crew out. We also add at that point to gravel to those roads, $940,000. We have gravel with grading. This is some of the gravel roads that we were talking about, Bob, just things we've already had proposed. So 27.25 miles gravel and grading, estimated $682,000. 10 miles hot mix asphalt with 7 miles of old I-50 widening, estimating at this point $1.5 million. Now, this would be some of the discussion. I know we're going to have some more here as the weeks continue, as before the end of the month. I have close to $500,000 left over in 2020. This is money that I visited with Andy about just a little bit. It would not necessarily roll over into the Public Works Asphalt Fund, but would be set aside in a different fund. And then we would have, I believe we have estimated currently right now in 2021, $1.2 million currently for hot mix asphalt. This is normally what we do, each is close to 10 miles of hot mix asphalt as we do maintenance. So with that, what you're gonna find is on your maps, we'll just jump right into the maps then. And this is gonna show you the locations. So 2021 construction projects. This would be the chip seals, hot mix asphalt, fog seals, that we've just visited about. Also scrub seals too, even though we may not stand cost on there, but we do have a couple locations for scrub seal. And so now scrub seal, by itself, normally what we would do is a scrub seal with a chip seal on top. But on these particular locations, I'll just talk about scrub seals. On these particular locations, there's three sections. Is what we're trying to do here is increase the maintenance life of that particular road. We're seeing some issues that the cracking, if left in its current condition, because we won't have time to go out and do the chip seal onto it in its current condition. If we did nothing, we would actually lower the lifespan of that road pavement, because it would allow the water to go through and get to that subgrade, to which you don't want. So scrub seal, down there on Second between Angus and Emmer. We call that the St. Louis Road, I believe, Bob, is that right?
This is St. Louis Road for a long time.
So it's been called St. Louis Road. The other one is 12th Road. Now, there's two sections on 12th. One is we're looking at Emmer, going back to the county line, and the reason why is we're seeing a lot more traffic on that particular road because of the rock quarry. We also have the current road condition there at Burlington on 12th Road to Embankment Road. And what we feel there is probably the residential, not the residential traffic, but basically the residents' services that we have on that road. So, you could be looking like trash trucks, delivery trucks, different things like that. That can cause more wear than your normal car or pickup. And so on those particular ones, we noted that we had to do, we're needing to do some additional work. The other ones, as you can see, is maintenance seals, double chip seals, hot mix asphalt. We do have some of the hot mix asphalt up there by the Lebo area. And as you can see in there, we have, say, from Emmer, from the tracks going north to 27th. We have 27th from D to actually the city limits of Lebo, going east. Then we have the intersection right there, actually back at Emmer. I believe it's called 26th Place. Is all hot mix at this point. Now, one thing that to note, what I'm looking at doing, adding for 21 projects, is there at the lake, the city of Lebo Lake, there's that, what we call a causeway, water on both sides of the road. We've had problems with that before. The water actually comes over the road, and when it does, it washes out the embankment right around that guardrail. So we have replaced that guardrail, or replaced actually some sheeting along that embankment. But we've also had damage to that asphalt as well. So on that particular one, what I'd like to do there is not just add a hot mix asphalt, but to actually improve that embankment so we can have a longer service life and not have the erosion issues due to rain occurrences that's washing that embankment off. And so that one is there's various ways of doing it. One is you could actually add a concrete apron on the embankment. We can add larger rock, a riprap type rock. We can also add what they call gabion baskets. So these are all protective measures that would minimize the erosion of the embankment. But then we'd also replace that guardrail to height according to standards. So that's going to be a little project that we're going to be proposing over there. Now, once again, all of these type of things, once they go beyond the policy manual for purchasing, I'd be bringing the motion to the guardrail purchases and different things like that. But that would be a little project that we're looking at. We're also looking at a little hot mix, right there on the east side of Lebo, right outside of the city limits. It's that curve that goes back. We always called it, it's the curve that goes back to the hog farm. We have chip sealed that several times. There's actually potholes developing right there at the curve. And so really the only way to fix that would be to add some hot mix asphalt. Since we're in that area, it would be more economic at that time to actually add hot mix at that corner, because it's going to be a small volume. It's going to be less than a quarter mile is what you're looking at, but that would be the time to add that hot mix asphalt. And so that would be something we'd be looking at adding as well. The next section that we have would be over by New Strand. So we have 16th Road, and that would take us to the curve right there at the stop sign, what we call Lake Road. And we go back to Cabra, and then go north on Cabra between 16th and 17th. And so that would be hot mix at that point. And we're also adding hot mix down on 11th Road as it goes up to 12th Road on Quail. And then we're adding hot mix in the city of Burlington, or not in the city of Burlington, but along the edge of Burlington city limits. That would be 11th Road, and then also Lynx Road, or they call 16th Road, from 11th to 12th. Those would be the hot mix projects as you see on the map. And the rest of them, as you see, is basically the chip seal, fog seal.
What's the little blue mark on Milo and 27th, or up there north of 27th on Milo?
Okay, I missed that one, but good that you caught that. Four Rivers is, we have that frontage road right up there. And what we're finding is we had 6 inches of hot mix asphalt placed on that road initially to get that built. And so what you're finding right now is some decracking that's occurring, that actually some subgrade issues. And so needing to add some additional material to add some more strength to that asphalt. And so that would be what we're proposing there at that point. And all of them are listed too. I think on that spreadsheet we have the locations listed. Maintenance and construction plan. As you can see, these would be the section blade, shouldering, ditching, maintenance. Projected projects, gravel replacement projects, gravel enhancements from the highway fund, special highway fund, and then also projects that's completed. So as you know, gravel-wise, we have over 980 miles of gravel roads in our county. We have a total of 1,200 miles overall. But these are the locations that we have proposed at this point. Box culvert replacement, this would be replacement projects, 2021 replacement projects. So this is indicating locations for snap type, crossroads CMPs, proposed box culverts, proposed bridge replacements, and crossroads CMPs. The bridge replacement at this point is, we're looking at the bridge, that would be 6A. 6A would be the Koopman Bridge. Funding wise would be actually the key finding. At this point, it's possible in 2021, come say October, it's possible that could be a project for us, but it'd be dependent upon the funding, because it is tied into that KDOT 80/20 funding. Okay. Any questions so far? If not, I can make that a
You know, when we looked 2 years ago there at the northwest corner of Leroy, from Reaper Lane, there at Luther Smokehouse, you know, go north a half a mile and then go back west, that water is coming across that one field, across the gravel road.
That's still on we're still developing that, set
We're
of
still
plans.
developing that plan, because that is something,
Yes, sir.
even though it wouldn't be a benefit to very many people, it'd be a huge benefit to those that it does service, so.
We're still,
We kind of left the impression, you know, we would do that, you know, in the next couple of years, so we're in that couple of years period already, so.
it'll probably be one of our carryover projects since it was already approved and we're gonna continue to move on. The next phase of it is, once we complete the plans, is come in and see how much additional right of way and then have the discussion with the city and the
The
landowners.
city's involved in that one stretch, so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll visit with Shane and try to give him a brief update on that.
We're still working on that, but at the point we get everything complete, we'll have that meeting.
Anybody got any questions for Wayne at this time? We appreciate the quick update, of course, appreciate you and what your employees also do for us like all of our other employees. A lot of projects finished last year, but there's yet a lot of unfinished projects that got to be done.
There's been a lot of work done, and as I say, this is just a brief overview. We even had the guardrail that was put in on the plant road, that was completed here, this year. We have a lot of other projects that I haven't even had time to mention. We have a good group of employees within the highway department, supervisors that make this happen. And as you've entrusted us with the funds, we hope and we take very seriously that of the work that we do, and we appreciate the opportunity. So.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for all your updates.
All right.
Appreciate it, Wayne.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring you something towards the end of the month for, what we'll have is, public comment, if there's anybody that's from the public who'd like to talk about our 2021 projects. And then, also the motion that would approve basically the book that we would have. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Keep that, Wayne.
Next resolution.
We're good.
That completes our agenda that we're aware of. Other than we will be visiting with two candidates at 1 and 2:30 for our emergency management interviews.
Oh, well.
Denise, do you have anything at the round table? Tim? Fred?
I was just gonna ask, do we need to do anything about, the quarantine time, the recommendation and separation time? What the state went, instead of 14 days, they recommended 7, and some of the counties are going with 10. Do we need to make a decision on what we're doing?
That's somewhat what Wayne's gonna be.
We gotta redo the resolution for mass. We were gonna look at it every 2 weeks, and this week's the one to look at it.
Yeah.
The other, probably need Lindsay or help, somebody to tell us what's going on, what they recommending.
Yeah, right now, we need
The
something.
state's recommending 7 days, and some of the counties are going with 10, and some of them are staying with 14.
Yeah, there's 3 different ways to keep her going. Wade, we're in the roundtable. Denise and Tim didn't have anything. Fred brought up something about, every 2 weeks we need to take a look. So, what have you got for us we need to entertain for today?
So the resolution 2020-863, which is the order that the board, I guess in a 3-2 vote voted, I don't remember what day it is now, the 23rd.
Excuse me just a second, Wade. Do we need to have Lindsay here? Here.
If you want her here.
Oh, this one. We haven't heard anything from her since last week, Monday or Tuesday.
So on page 3 of the resolution in subsection 6D or 6F, the provision that says this resolution shall be effective upon passage and shall be reviewed by the commission on December 7th, 2020, and every 2 weeks thereafter. So today, December 7th, and there needs to be a review, at least at this point, to determine whether the current order as it exists remains in effect, and then review again 2 weeks from now. So that's what that is. And I think it's good that that's in place so that it doesn't get lost behind the scenes. So there's an ongoing dialogue, demonstrates the board is taking a conscious approach to reviewing what's going on within the boundaries of Coffee County. So it's my understanding that Dr. Sloyer is not recommending that the county make any changes to what's in place right now.
Recommend not to.
To continue on, and then we'll review it again in 2 weeks and see where we are.
Okay. Does Lindsay, is that her perception also?
I don't want to speak for Lindsay.
Supposed to be headed down,
I would assume so.
but I would assume so too, since we're continuing what we've already adopted.
So, and in essence, the difference between this and the governor's order 2068, as we previously discussed, is the difference between a mandate and a strong recommendation, which is what it is right now. And I think that still remains the same difference or distinction.
So if we stay with don't change any of our resolution, we don't have to adopt any new ones at all. We just stay with what we've already got.
Correct.
For 2 more weeks,
Then it's reviewed.
to the 21st of December.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions or comments? I guess we'll wait till see if she was headed right down.
So I think the issue, I think what was said 2 weeks ago, well, it's not exactly 2 weeks ago, close to 2 weeks ago when this was adopted, because this was adopted on a Tuesday. People still need to, and you guys need to be the ones that make the statements that reflects this, but people are highly encouraged to wear their masks at all times and in all public locations, to wash their hands.
I had notes to make that, strongly suggest that again.
I've been sort of, and I don't know exactly where the source is at this point, but it's been probably relayed to me through secondary channels that there are some local businesses that are concerned that people come in and they're not wearing, residents are not wearing masks. And in some of these locations, there are young employees who are put in a difficult position to either approach somebody and request they wear a mask or not do it at all. And I think that's an unfair position to put young people in. I think the encouragement is that everybody just wear a mask. But
I think what needs to be emphasized is, and I've had a couple of people ask me, and it kind of goes back to businesses, because someone said, well, the county doesn't mandate the mask. But if you go into a business and they require you wear a mask, either wear the mask or don't do business with them, one of the two. I mean, they have that right to require that as their own personal business. And that's not us telling you, you got to. That's the business telling you. So I think people need to understand if the business requires it, that's the way it is. So even though we're not requiring it. So I think that needs to be emphasized.
And you can understand the businesses pushing for that as their policy, because they can't afford to have their employees come down with it and totally shut their business totally down for a period of time. So we've got to fully respect what our businesses, what their policy is and absolutely honor it, just like Bob said. While we're waiting on Lindsay, you have any? Or waiting on Lindsay, you have anything else?
Businesses?
Again, Tom,
You might need to say that again, Tom.
Yeah, I spoke to one of the business owners and it seems like he is in a difficult position. I want to finish with the mandate thing. I'll say again, here, I thought I did everything I needed to do, everything right. I did everything right. I was cautious, did everything. Here I am. And there's a lot of people in my same shoes I am. I just wonder, I don't know, is there something we can do for some of these businesses? I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be either, Tom. I don't know. Probably, you can't have a policy or procedures for one business over another business and over another. I don't know of any other way to change it other than if the businesses, if that's their policy, the people that's going in their businesses need to fully respect what their choice is. Because they're trying to protect their employees because they don't want to be shut down because too many employees come down with the virus, so.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
But, and the business has the right of refusal. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, every business has that same right, and you don't want to see it get to the point where there's an escalation to some sort of contact with law enforcement, but it's no different than if somebody goes into a store without a shirt, they can be asked to put a shirt on. And if they don't put a shirt on, they can be asked to leave. If they don't leave, then they potentially have, there's recourse through law enforcement there. I don't think that's where businesses want to go. And I think that's a last resort, but that is a potential remedy for businesses. So.
Lindsay, we discussing the resolution we passed here 2 weeks ago. You got any new information to bring forward? Did you just continue the same procedures we are through December 21st? What type of report can you give to us?
The report I have right now is we currently have 36 active cases as of this moment. We had a lot of recoveries through the weekend.
Had a lot of recoveries.
A lot of recoveries, yeah. But we've also had a lot of new cases, but like we said, we've been expecting this. It's the spike after Thanksgiving. If you were privy to the information on our list, you would see a lot of the same last names. A lot of household contacts. And you also have to remember the state gives you an incentive to test. If you test, you get 90 days out of quarantine in the future. So we see the ramifications of that. So normally we might not have this many cases on paper, but it looks that way because you can get out of quarantine if you test. So people do take advantage of that, which is absolutely fine. I think we're seeing what we expected to see at this time. I'm not surprised at all. So, Dr. Sawyer did say, and I think Wade probably already reviewed that with you, that he said he didn't want to change anything from where we were. So.
Well, like Commissioner Fred mentioned, some are saying you can go to 7 days quarantine or 10 days, 14 days, but your observation, we just continue with what was adopted 2 weeks ago.
Well, what was adopted 2 weeks ago did not address quarantine.
Yeah.
So that we have changed internally, yes, at Dr. Sawyer's suggestion and working with the state and CDC. So if you get quarantined now, if you have no symptoms, you can be out on day 10. if you would like to test on or after day 5, you can get out and you're negative, no symptoms, you can get out on day 7. Now, I will say that we do not have access to a lot of asymptomatic testing for Coffee County. So, you know, we like to focus our testing efforts on symptomatic people. So at this time, that 7 to 10 day, we have to refer them elsewhere most likely. So, or to take them down from 14 to 7, we have to refer them elsewhere.
What about the 10?
The 10 is automatic. You're still asked to watch your symptoms at that point. So, so nothing changed as far as incubation period. It still can be 14 days. That's not, and that has not changed. They're just shortening the time you have to be in quarantine if you haven't got symptoms by day 10.
Yeah.
So that has, yes, that has changed. I apologize for leaving that out.
So that automatically becomes our policy.
We clarified that with him last week, and he said that that's what he wants us to do.
But this has nothing to do with the
That's
resolution.
nothing to do with it.
No, that's correct.
Okay, for those of you who are listening from the outside, and I'm sure there's probably quite a few of you will be, you know, our county's gonna continue the same procedures in place for the next 2 weeks, as I understand it. We strongly recommend everybody to wear masks, do social distancing at all possible opportunities that you can. We are hearing some responses from businesses that have a policy in place that require masks to be worn. And I think my message to everybody is that all of our citizens need to respect that business. They're here to make a livelihood. They cannot afford to have their business shut down for a week or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it may be. So anytime you're using those businesses, and we encourage you to shop locally if all possible, encourage you to follow their policies and wear a mask and maintain social distancing. And hopefully we'll have less outbreaks of it, so.
And I would also say, if you don't mind, asking our local businesses if you can do curbside, if you can't wear a mask or choose not to wear a mask, but curbside shopping is available, and perhaps they would work with you through that. So it's an option.
Anybody have any questions for Lindsay? Yeah, Wade?
You just might give an update, the health department's up and operational now. I think last week that was.
Yes, we are now. We have all of our orders in place and are able to, again, see clients the way we used to. Well, at some capacity of what we used to do. With the influx in cases, it is hard. We are still restricting some hours, but we are available and we can serve. So we appreciate that.
Okay. Appreciate your department.
Well,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Wade, do you have anything else?
So last week, or the week before, it all runs together now. I gave you each a sample to review in reference to the a sample motion for vacation time, and I sort of modified it a little bit so I can read it if you'd like, but before it gets lost in the shuffle and we end up in 2021, I think we at least need to take some action so that it's preserved.
Okay.
So if you want me to read what I have, which is a slight modification of what I handed out.
I've got I don't know, but I've got last week's copy, but yeah, go ahead.
And that's why Tom may not have it with him, so if I read it, then he can hear what it says, and if you have any questions, we can go from there. So my suggestion is the following. Move to direct the chairman with the approval as formed by the county attorney to authorize all county employees with vacation leave accrued in excess of the maximum accumulation allowed within the 2020 calendar year based on years of continuous employment under section 8.4 of the Coffee County Policy and Procedure Manual to carry over excess vacation time accrued above the maximum hours accumulation. This is an exception designed to take into account the impact of COVID-19 on the use of vacation time earned but unused by county employees within the 2020 calendar year. The excess hours above the maximum hours accumulation accrued within the 2020 calendar year shall be used by the county employee on or before Wednesday, June 30th, 2021, and in accordance with section 8.4 of the Policy and Procedure Manual. Period.
That's shortened what we had last week. That's shortened it up.
It is shortened.
Shortened it up several lines, so.
Yes.
Anybody have any? Tom, you're on board. Do you have any questions for what Wade just read to us?
No, sir.
So one of the reasons why I'm requesting it be done this way is because there will be potentially a number of policy changes to the policy manual once the implementation process occurs with the salary study and likely some of the recommendations with the HR audit is my understanding. There'll be some recommendations as well. One of the places to make a change when that's being done is when one place is in section 1.2, which deals with emergency type situations and allowing an exception for under county policy when you're in an emergency, there's a disaster or an emergency declared by the county. And this would be a similar type situation because currently the county is in a disaster declaration and has been basically since the beginning of COVID-19. So this would preserve that and make, I think the concern would be from the employee standpoint that there's nothing that's been formalized, although I think the commission has previously stated that this is what their intent is. Now it ends up formalized in the minutes and can carry on and be looked. There can be a look back period if needed to see exactly what was said.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? Entertain a motion to move to adopt this to our policy manual.
Well, it's not to the policy manual.
Well, yeah, it won't go directly into policy because it's only just for a short time frame.
Yeah, it's a motion to allow this to occur.
Yeah, as soon as I said that, I just didn't say it right.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Bob is so moved.
I'll second.
Tim is second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0, Denise. You have anything else, Wade? We are gonna try, if we possibly can, maybe we'll get a bite to eat, because we're supposed to be having an interview at 1 o'clock, so.
So the last thing that I'll have is a quote. The challenge of leadership is to be strong, but not rude, be kind, but not weak, be bold, but not a bully, be thoughtful, but not lazy, be humble, but not timid, be proud, but not arrogant, have humor, but without folly. And that's Jim Rohn. And that's all I have.
That quote was by who?
Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N.
Okay. Fred, you have anything else?
I may be in error here, but I understood from what I heard on the news that unless we adopted something on quarantine, that it would remain to be 14 days. And so I would just make the motion that we adopt the health officer's recommendation for quarantine that was presented to us a few minutes ago. And that would shorten that time period up for some people.
Did 14 days, Lou?
No, she said 7 days for a certain amount,
Yeah,
10 days
10.
for something, and 14. I would recommend we honor Dr. Sawyer's recommendation for that quarantine period
And stay with the 14 days.
and not stay with strictly a 14-day quarantine.
Okay.
It would just be to honor the health officer's recommendation.
Okay. You got that written down, Denise? I know you got the mic to go back on. Red has made a motion. Do we entertain a second?
I'll second it.
Tom, a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Have anything else, Fred?
That's all I've got.
Bob?
Nope.
And I don't. Donna, do you have anything else?
I just have on the calendar that Friday from 1 to 4 is Tasha Rogers' retirement
Yeah,
party
I've got it written down.
in the basement meeting room.
Okay,
That's all I have.
and we've got an interview at 1 o'clock. We also got an interview at 2:30. I don't know the correct procedures. I don't recall. Well, we need to recess here to about 12:55, come back here, and then make a motion to go into executive session for job interview. Okay. If everybody will just recess, if that's the right wording, till 12:55.
Now, I'm just doing it through the audit there, Brad, correct?
Yes,
Or video, yeah, audit. It's on the phone, right?
on the phone at the time of the interview.